Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMails24, Yuya Memento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
All the feature, all the perks of Discord now. So
I have no idea what that means. I'm very new to Discord. I'm not up with technology. I had to get my kids to teach me Discord.
well, to put it in layman's terms, there's some things hidden behind a paywall. Familiar with the term paywall?
Yes.
Yeah, some things are hidden behind the paywall, like certain features like animated banners, more emojis. You can upload files to bigger size and you can have better audio quality, right? And the paywalls are behind 3 levels, right? There's level 1, level 2, and level 3. Now we're like at level 3, if I said that right. Something along those lines. But yeah.
And other programs don't have a paywall at all.
Say that again?
Some programs don't have a paywall at all. They just give you everything. They're just not
Right.
quite so fancy, but it just depends what you prefer, I guess.
Right. But yeah.
Morning, Tim.
Good morning, sound check.
Yeah, we hear you.
Good morning,
I
Test
posted.
Man.
Good morning. I posted today's for your.
I just heard you roboting. Can you say that again?
I posted today's review video just before your link in Master D.
I'm Jana Levin. I'm an astrophysicist, and I've been asked to explain gravity in 5 levels of increasing complexity. Gravity seems so familiar and so everyday, and yet it's this incredibly esoteric, abstract subject.
How can something that's appreciable in physical reality be abstract? That's a contradiction in terms straight off the bat. Ugh, where'd you find these people?
Well, I've had this one for a while, but this gets interesting all the way to the end.
That has shaped the way we view the universe on the largest scales, has given us the strange.
How can a concept shape the way you view something? That is a convoluted gaggle screw of nonsense, isn't it? That sentence should never have been uttered.
Totally.
Strangest phenomenon in the universe, like black holes, that has changed the way we look at the entirety of physics. It's really been a revolution.
Physics is the study of the physical under the umbrella of science. Well, when you say change the look of something, how you look at something, would be to say that you don't accept the empirical outcome of science, which is physics. So again, a nonsensical statement. You don't change the way you view physics. You can describe it with natural law. That would be to say you describe things that occur always. They're just descriptions. This is only 30 seconds in. It's already got my blood pressure up.
Because of gravity.
It's going to get your blood pressure a lot more
Are you
with the
interested in
first
science?
one.
Yes.
Yes, you are?
Yes.
Do you know what gravity is?
It's something that, so right now, we would be floating if there was no gravity, but since there is gravity, we're sitting right down on these chairs.
That's pretty good. So gravity wants to attract us to the Earth.
Looks up at clouds. So, does gravity want to attract us but not the clouds? What's the score there? Is the clouds going down, go boom boom, attracted to the centre of the mass of Earth? Has gravity got a conscience? Can it decide what it wants to do? Or is this merely abstract? I'm pretty sure she already said it was abstract. But now it's a force holding this young lady to the ground? I think not. Hey John, hey Adam, hey Neil.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
And the Earth to us. But the Earth is so much bigger that even though we're actually pulling the Earth a little bit to us, you don't notice it so much. You know, the moon pulls on the Earth a little bit.
Just like with the
Let's watch Wired indoctrinate children. Oh, really? Pulls like a force, even though it's not a force. Maybe this astrophysicist doesn't understand that gravity hasn't been a force for 108 years, as she indoctrinates this child with the notions of it being a force that holds us to the ground. She's lying to the child. It's outrageous. It's not a force. How can it pull things? It doesn't pull things.
ocean tides.
Exactly. Well, the moon is such a big body compared.
Right, so when you talk about the problems with bodies in Einstein's maths for gravity, in this instance, both bodies can attract one another, described what, as a Newtonian force? That's not been the case for 108 years. Why are Wired lying to children? I ask myself.
Compared to anything else very nearby, that it has the larger effect pulling the water of the Earth. But more than the moon, think about the sun.
Gravity has a larger effect. That would be to say that it's the influencer. It's the cause. Well, no, that isn't the case. So she's definitely detailing Newtonian mechanics that are 108 years out of date to children. Why? Just lies. Just Wired lying to children. How many million subscribers? Oh, 10 million. Lying to children.
Pulling on the Earth. We orbit the whole sun just the way the Earth pulls on the moon and causes the moon to orbit us. All of those things are acting on you and me right now.
It came from the church when they were trying to figure out how Easter would be determined based on the movement of the lights in the skies. The description of the orbits was invented by Kepler. So, no, that's not what we are doing. And Earth and Moon pulling on each other would be a big problem in Einstein's mathematics now, wouldn't it? Of course, you're not teaching this young lady Einsteinian mathematics that superseded the Newtonian mathematics you're describing to her with a force that isn't a force, but you can think of it as a force. That's not what you're doing, is it? You're just lying to this child. Yep, preferred
She's
content.
Invoking
Go on,
spooky action at a distance, isn't she? That's what children are told, it appears, what gravity is. So as you say, a complete lie. 105, 6 year out.
8.
108 years out of date. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you describe it as a force when you know it's out of date and it's incorrect to the child? Why is the child not worthy of being told it's nothing to do with anything pushing and pulling? It's the bending of space-time. It's falling down space-time. Why is the child not being told the truth? Is it because the child would laugh at that?
Because it's a child. This is an astrophysicist explaining gravity to 5 different people at 5 different levels. As you see the progression, it's amazing to see what they do.
So we got to wait. Is that what you're saying, Tim? You wait because we'll find out why a child's told an out of date thing.
It's pretty obvious because, of course, this is the thing we've said, and what Anthony's been talking about with in England with how they teach.
If gravity was too strong, would we be able to get up?
That's such a good question. No, we actually couldn't. The moon gravity is weaker, can almost.
So weaker, stronger, these are determining factors and descriptions for forces. Yeah? I mean, obviously it's a problem for the moon landings when it's asserted to be using Einsteinian mechanics that are 108 years out of date. But obviously back in the 60s and 70s, they hadn't quite caught up with the new hotness that is Einsteinian, fourth dimensional, space-time bending. And it is, that's gravity, not a force. But they need the child to know that we went to the moon, and they need the child to know that the force, that isn't a force, holds her to the ground, looks up at clouds, releases helium balloon.
Almost float between footsteps if you look at the astronauts on the moon.
Yeah.
She can't look at the astronauts on the moon. She can look at the telly. She can look at the sound stage that was set up to fake the people being on the moon. Because they weren't on the moon. They didn't travel through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum to arrive at a rock that you claim is in the sky, floating around in a sky vacuum. No, she can't see that. She can just see your images that you're going to present her with when claiming gravity's a force, like it was when they went to the moon. Obviously, it's 108 years out of date now, so it was definitely out of date when they went to the moon and started lying about this force of gravity and how strong or weak it is.
On the Earth, it's harder because it's bigger. If you go to a bigger, heavier planet, it gets harder and harder. But
So is she going to do that? So you're prepared to lie to her about gravity being a force, but you're simultaneously prepared to tell this child to go to another planet in your reified sky vacuum to verify what you're telling her. So her options are accept what I say or go to another planet. Seem reasonable, Adam? I mean, like it's like, oh, well, maybe they wouldn't understand, but they're prepared to tell him to go to another planet to experience the weight of the force that isn't a force. What an outrage from Wired.
It is brainwashing, isn't it?
Yep.
It's not demonstrating to a child. It's giving them, let's say, dodgy options as to validate. Either I accept what I say or like, or go to another planet or watch this claim of us in full crapper vision being on the moon. It's not what you call evidence, is it?
there are stars that have died that are so dense that there's no way we could lift our arms, no way we could step or walk. The gravity is just way too strong. Do you know how tall you are?
Demonstrate. It's just,
By going to the star that she's talking about, we, when we are conceptually young child, stood upon a star that's physical in nature, that has been reified into something that lives and dies, like you live and die. If we were stood on that dead star, it's like, how morbid do you want to be? First you reify the lights in the sky into things that are living and dead, then you have her conceptually standing on them, after telling her to go to them. So mentally she's gone to them, and now she's standing on a star. Twinkle, twinkle, how I wonder. No, how I'm told by an astrophysicist with a force that's not a force that I'm standing on a dead star. Just brainwashing this child.
And also
remind
fear,
sorry.
the fear of it all.
Yeah, incorporated in is the death cell. Absolutely correct. A propaganda and marketing technique to try and get your attention and get you to buy things. In this case, scare her with the fear-mongering of death. What death, you say? Oh, the dead star she's about to be stood on conceptually as a 6-year-old. Go on, Adam.
The fear she wouldn't be able to lift her arm if it was available. The thing that just popped in my head is the other day we had that video where I went and found that book that was claimed to be from the ancients but turned out to be from 1500s and was kind of postulating new stuff in terms of a geocentric spherical solar system. And the thing it said was it was kind of encouraged early reading for people starting on this journey. And within the book, the review was talking about helping the students develop a mental model. And this is what's happening here. Yeah. So for the child, we don't need to be correct. All we want is that mental model building, so that forces pulling, that these forces exist. However we describe them later, doesn't matter if we're accurate, because all it's about is that early programming, getting that mental model ingrained from an early age.
Fours,
In the fours,
maybe 4-3.
people think that while you're sleeping, your body has a chance to stretch out and gravity isn't crunching you together. But when you're standing and
More scary brainwashing. Not crunching you together, squashing you together, not stopping your arms from ever being able to lift, restraining you, constricting you. See all the images they're creating for this little child? It's absolutely disgusting.
walking or sitting, that gravity contracts your spine ever so slightly.
Look at her eyes widen.
So that in the morning, you might be a little bit taller than in the evening. See if it works for you.
Whoa.
We just said that to a
Wow.
kid. She just told a kid that she was going to get shorter as she grew up. She's an idiot.
This is true. As we stand in the day, and the cerebrospinal fluid does compress, okay, and that does cause slight decompression of the spine. So yeah, by the end of the day, you are slightly shorter than when you were getting up after having your spine relaxed. I've never, ever heard it described as gravity crushing your spine, as she's put it to that child. I thought it was the weight of the skeleton that is just the way it holds itself together, and that's why we were built. But as you say, to put it, and Nathan called it early, as a death cell. That's what this is. It's being portrayed. She's being crushed.
But it's not true. Children don't. That's something that adults experience. Children don't. They experience growth, not shrink.
I think they're talking in any one individual day.
That's what.
I just confirm. Adam's right, but that's not the point. The method of how the information's being disseminated, the tone, the timbre, the overarching subject matter at hand that's being programmed into her, and the method in which it's being done. And I just simply don't like it. It doesn't matter whether or not you compress your spine in the night or not. Does this 6-year-old need this information? No, but making her check something can make her scientific measurement of her height the following day, because that's the kind of crap that children are peddled.
You can see in the video what happens after that, right? With the marker as the kid sees how much she got taller. You realize these are all parlor tricks. Just like when I watch golf on TV, the ball ends up going, the golf ball ends up going in the hole, and then the announcer says, "Oh, after he hit it, gravity took over after that. When I sleep, gravity didn't have much on me, but when I wake up, gravity's making me shorter." They got gravity doing everything.
Yes.
They say that astronauts in space, definitely their spine elongates. There were two twin astronauts, one who stayed here on Earth and the other who went to the International Space Station.
Yeah, let's just call it like it is. They're both liars. Neither of these two men have been in space, because space is a second law of thermodynamics violation. It's a vacuum. The gas that this young lady's breathing would vacate the area around her into that lower pressure system if it were real. It isn't. Debunking the notions that the men travel on the light we observe in the sky, named by them the ISS, and claim to be a tin can in a sky vacuum. No, the area that light occupied would be an area of lower pressure that the gas we breathe could fill, leaving us all dead, making these men unequivocally liars. They have not been to space.
It was there for a long time.
This has got to be maybe the number one proof of gravity. So we've got twin astronauts. One goes to space, one comes back, and the proof of gravity is the one that went to space is a little bit taller than the one that didn't. That's a proof. To even cite that, where's gravity in any of that? Twins, we got spines. This is somebody teaching them. This is her citation. Demonstrate gravity.
It's the videos we see, the NASA blooper videos that originates from NASA, where they're hanging on wires in space, and those wires stretch that spine at them.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Adam Meakin, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man Rising, Paul, Neil, Brian, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Greetings.
Hello. How are things?
Afternoon, everyone.
Things are good. Things are very good. No complaints. Which housekeeping question have we done recently? Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Any evidence that Earth has an axis?
No, you'll need an R value for that axis that's not proven. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Hang on. I've been questioning the ballers about their light gyro claims for its axial rotation.
Did you read my comment? Did you read my comment on your recent video in that regard? I left one of the shortest comments I've ever left, which was surprising considering it was a Coriolis video. Did you read my comment?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I wasn't even trying to make a Coriolis video. Yeah, you said if the gyro precesses, then it's faulty.
Yeah,
it's simple as.
I'm glad you remembered.
Yeah.
Right, so I'll let you carry on because it's your point you're making. I don't want to hijack it, but I will just preface this by saying to anybody watching, gyros and pendulums have a principle that they're trying to adhere to. In the case of a pendulum, the principle is it swings back and forth. That's it. For a gyro, it spins rigid in space. That is to say that if you're holding a gyro and you move your hand, the idea of a functional gyro is that the mechanism stays fixed in space while you and the cage you are holding move around it. Now, if it does not do that, it's broken. Carry on, Brian.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the video was making was based around the fact that gyros, whether it be a light gyro or a mechanical gyro, they need to be at the correct. Like, I'm being given a hard time using the word RPM for the light gyros. But the point is they need a certain amount of time, but like when they're in a gyro compass, for instance, before you can use them. It's 4 hours for a mechanical gyro and a half an hour for a light gyro.
For what?
Fog gyro.
Well, I've got to admit, I read those in the comments. I'm sorry to colour comment your descriptions, but yeah, I read that in the comments too. And when it was said, I kind of scratched my head and went, you know what? When I used the term spinner per gyro, and then you think of a fibre optic gyro, what the hell's spinning up? So why does it take half an hour?
Well, I'm only going by a seat. Sorry, go on, Adam. Say it again.
The timing's there. It's just for calibrating. Obviously, once it's spinning, in the case of the light gyro setting up, but it's just calibrating because it's going to be relied on later. It's going to be the thing that you reference to make sure you are level, parallel to the ground at whatever altitude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the point I was making within it, and what it is the whole video is based on the whole Bob Nodell with the light gyro or the fog gyro claims. Let's just say, right? Well, it's not focusing on Bob Nodell. It's focusing on what they're claiming. The borders are trying to claim concerning fog gyros and ring laser gyros. But the upshot of the whole lot is I'm at a point with them where I put out a poll today where I'm looking to find out, are they claiming, because I can't get any straight answers out of any of them, right? All they'll do is try and major on the minors. They'll never address a video or give a straight answer. So I'm trying to find out who's claiming that the gyro is showing a 15 degree per hour drift while on the surface of Earth only. That's one option. Second option, who's claiming that it's showing a 15 degree per hour drift on the Earth's surface and in an airplane in flight? And the third option is who's claiming that it's not showing the 15 degree per hour drift on the Earth, but it's showing it in an airplane in flight. Now, they don't prove anything, right? But there is a claim out there by these people that they prove something. And the ridiculous thing about it is none of these people who are trying to say this thing proves something, none of these people have actually gone and got this data and showed that they're doing any of these things that they're claiming they're doing, right? The only person that they ever claimed did it was Bob Nodell, and it wasn't Bob Nodell. It was a member of FE Core. I think it was your man Mike Kavanagh, right? And that claim is dubious because we've never seen anything for that to support any of it. But it doesn't matter. The point is that, yeah, but just 1 second. I know you have some information on it. Just let me finish what I'm saying here, just as a point. The point is this. This is my point. If the gyro, right, just say if, just speculation. If the gyro is showing a 15 degree per hour drift on the Earth only and not in an airplane, then that doesn't prove anything, because that would mean that the Earth would have to be rotating underneath the airplane. But it's not. If it's showing it on the Earth and in an airplane in flight, then it's also debunked. Their claim is also debunked simply by the fact that if the Earth was rotating and the airplane was rotating, then they can't both be rotating at the same rate, which would mean that the upshot of it is this: is that there's no guarantee then that what the gyro would be picking up would be Earth rotation, because the Earth isn't rotating underneath the airplane. So that would mean the only thing it could be picking up at that point would be the rotation of the sky, which means the sky is rotating and the Earth is not rotating. So there's more to come on this, but the whole upshot of it is all they're actually doing with their claims concerning the fog gyro, right, and the ring laser gyro, is proving that it's definitely not showing any Earth rotation. The only thing that it can be showing is that the sky is rotating and the Earth is stationary, when you take it to its logical conclusion. And that's why none of them will give me a straight answer. Because no matter what way they twist the form with it,
hold that thought, because I think Adam's got a question that's on point before you over-summarise. Go ahead, Adam. Or maybe not. Maybe he didn't have a question
I've got that data somewhere, Brian.
You need a little interlude. Do you need me to waffle for a little bit while you look
I
it up?
asked Mike for it a long time. The crux of what they were claiming, they weren't denying that there was drift shown. What they were showing, that rate of supposed drift changed at different altitudes. So you get to the point that, is there something going off? Or have we got a faulty device? Because if for whatever reason it was consistent at 15, then you might be able to mitigate for that to maintain your relative horizontal. But if it's changing at different rates based on different altitudes, then I would suggest that device is next to useless in an aeroplane, which is going to express the most altitude change of anything, as opposed to a load of flat earthers running up and down a mountain taking readings.
Okay,
So the only conclusion I could draw from that is,
before we draw conclusions on this, I want to dumb
it
it down.
seems a useless device.
I want to dumb this down for the audience's benefit, because
if that's what it's doing,
you're over summarising some of these terms, like if it's drifting.
I was saying, Nathan prefaced it at the beginning.
Yeah, I just want to.
I just want to
summarise it. I just want to dumb it down a little bit. I just want to dumb it down a little
So
bit.
to have one that apparently drifts at a set rate at certain altitudes, and that is then going to be used in airplanes, seems even more or less fit for purpose. Is that negative?
Can you guys hear me?
But that was my understanding of the data, Bri, that I saw, and that was what? That
Nathan,
was
I hear
2019.
you. Adam can't hear you.
I can't hear Nathan now, so I'll drop and come in.
Yeah, I think you can't hear me, Adam. That's okay. So I just want to dumb it down for the audience's benefit, because there's certain terms that are being used, like 15 degrees an hour drift, drifting at different rates. I just want to break down because again, Brian has sort of postulated, what are they actually claiming? Well, I want to break down exactly what's being claimed based on what a gyro will or won't do. So based on the principle I detailed earlier, that a gyro will remain rigid in space, that is to say it spins in the same orientation and the cage it's housed in will move around that rigid in space spinning gyroscope. Okay, so with that principle in hand, if the cage moves around the gyro, it means that, like with you holding the gyro in your hand and twisting it, it means that the thing holding the gyro, or the thing that's holding the cage more specifically, is moving. Now, if in a FOG, which is a fiber optic gyroscope, or light-based gyroscope, or in any gyroscope that is designed to remain rigid in space, if it shows a deviation, that is to say the cage moves around the gyro which is rigid in space, then it suggests that the surface the gyro is attached to has moved in reference to the original spun-up position and orientation of the gyroscope. So to put it in more simplistic terms, if it's showing drift and it's on the ground, then the ground's moving. That's the claim Coriolis relies upon. The claim is Earth is turning underneath the fixed frame of the gyroscope. So the gyroscope spins in space and does not move, but because Earth moves, you see a deviation in the gyroscope, because the cage attached to the ground spinning has moved and the gyro has remained rigid in space. So just to clarify, the globe claim is that Earth turns underneath the rigid reference of the gyroscope, demonstrating that Earth turns at 15 degrees an hour. Now, if this was the case, then stuff attached, demonstrating a drift, would influence the things that aren't attached, because they can no longer be connected to the non-inertial turning reference frame claimed in Coriolis. So if we have two separate reference frames, that would be rigid in space gyroscope, akin to something not attached to the ground, and a deviation of 15 degrees an hour underneath that reference, then flight times get shortened because Earth's turning underneath them in the same way as claimed Earth is turning under the fixed frame of the gyroscope. Now, that's complicated, but that's as dumbed down as I can make it for a layman audience that may not understand what's being detailed when we talk about how much drift at what latitude, how much Earth is turning under the fixed frame of the spinning gyroscope is what is being discussed and claimed by the globe. Hope that's brought some clarity. If not, leave it in the comments. Whoever else wants to continue, feel free.
Yeah, yeah. Just a second. Yeah, the point I'm making with this is that whether they claim, because I don't care about it, doesn't mean anything to me. But whether if they're claiming, I'm ready to a logical conclusion. If they're claiming that it's showing a 15 degree per hour drift while on the Earth, right, only, then that's not showing any rotation of the Earth, because the Earth is not rotating underneath the airplane. If they're saying it's rotating on the Earth and in an airplane, that's also debunking that the Earth, that it's something to do with an Earth rotating.
Stop. Just let me just correct that. Just if that's the case, there is no drift in the gyro.
But see, this is the thing. But see, it doesn't matter. I don't care if there is. This is the point. It doesn't matter if there is, because the point is that if it's doing it only on the Earth, then that's not to do with the Earth because the Earth's not rotating on any airplanes. If it's doing it on the Earth and in the airplane while it's in flight, right, then that also has nothing to do with the Earth because the airplane is not attached to the Earth. So the only logical conclusion that you can take from it would be if it's picking up anything, and I don't care if it is or isn't, but if it's picking up anything at that stage, then it has to be picking up the rotation of the sky, debunking all Earth movement. And that's all that matters to me. I don't care. The point is that what I'm doing with this is I'm turning the hashtag thanks Bob right around, and it'll be us that can use it. Doesn't bloody matter whether the gyro is bloody picking up the rotation of the sky, because it can't even do that, right? Can't pick up the rotation of anything. The point is that I don't care. The point I'm making is I don't care what claim they make, because whatever claim they make ruins their own claim.
Yeah, that's why it's got to be shrouded and convoluted with a high degree of doublespeak. They don't care if they're thanking Bob for proving that there is a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath, or denying that we would see an effect of Coriolis based on the fact that there's a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath asserted that we don't see any effect of. They don't mind which. Both is confusing enough for the audience to be left not realising which claim's supposed to be true, is disproven. That's how it's always been with Coriolis effect. It's that tightrope I've described that you walk along, because you can very quickly lose the audience because they get confused.
That's what I was objecting to. Maybe we shouldn't beg the question of a non-inertial turning reference frame. Just point out that the Earth doesn't have a radial value to be a non-inertial turning reference frame.
Yeah.
Well, the whole point of what I'm doing is to show that if you take what they're claiming, right, if you could actually get a claim out of them, if you could take what they're claiming, no matter what way they claim it, it all shows that it can't have anything to do with an Earth rotating. It can't. So I can then claim it must be detecting a rotation of the sky, debunking the Earth rotating. It doesn't matter to me whether that's true or not. The point is that logically, their claims are anti-Earth rotation. That's all that matters to me.
No, that's fine.
Care.
But just let me just highlight why I say it does matter. Because if you take it as read, so you're saying it doesn't matter to me either way, fine. Okay, we'll just accept that. But for me, if you accept the premise, that is to say, they're suggesting, thanks, Bob, for proving there is a drift at 15 degrees an hour as demonstrated by the gyroscope. Okay, then. So therefore, Earth turns under the gyroscope at 15 degrees an hour, shortening flight times.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Didn't they say that it moved at a different rate when they went higher, proving the ether? Or am I confusing it with something else?
I think that's probably when I was rumpusing Nathan, so I didn't. Your sound went, Nathan.
That's a G+ thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. That was the point I was trying to make. They're making this claim against what Bob announced back then, that the data that I've seen demonstrates this equipment is faultier than that. It's not 15 degrees all the time. It's at varying altitudes, the rate of drift changes. And that in itself invalidates all the results, because like I said, you've then got a gyro that is faulty at different altitudes. So its rate of drift isn't just 15, it might be 13 at 1,000 foot or something. Now that then makes it that the effect has got nothing, even if you presuppose a turning Earth, you can see that the two aren't then commensurate with each other. They're not linked, because the rate of turn would still be the same, whatever height you are in terms of degrees. So that to me is probably the data that the ballers won't deal with, because it will demonstrate the point that it's got nothing to do. Whatever is going off in this device, it's not linked to supposed Earth turn, because
Right.
higher out, the rate of change is not the same.
Correct, and I think Brian's probably quite pleased that you've reiterated his point, which is it makes no difference either way. Correct, Brian?
Yeah, because any way they twist or turn it, it debunks their claim of it being connected, of it somehow showing an out rotation. Because it should, no matter what way they claim it, but if you take it to the logical conclusion, it shows that it's not doing that.
Yeah, the data shows that it's not linked to 15 degrees per hour because at different altitudes the rate of change is different. Therefore, it's not linked to a supposed 15 degree per hour Earth turn that's the cause of it. Because
Right.
at
So it's
2,000
spurious.
feet, the Earth's still turning at 15 degrees an hour. The device doesn't show that.
It's a spurious result. In other words, I just take it to the original assertion. The claim by the globe is there is a 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath the fixed frame of the gyroscope. There's also the same claim by the same person in the form of the Foucault pendulum. There is a claim by the globe that the Earth turns underneath the back and forth motion of the pendulum, demonstrating a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath that reference frame, shortening flight times. Because a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles, which typically takes about 4 to 4.5 hours, would only take an hour and a half because it would be in the inertial reference frame with Earth turning underneath the aeroplane at 15 degrees an hour, exactly as asserted by the globe and claimed to be proven by the gyro. So, okay, you say Earth turns underneath the gyro at 15 degrees an hour as a non-inertial turning reference frame. Okay, I accept that. Why aren't the flight times shortened? Oh, because we wouldn't expect to see the 15 degrees an hour drift I've just claimed is shown in the gyro. That's the response.
Exactly.
Y'all really want to beg the question with them is what it is. Y'all want to beg the
No,
question
John,
with them.
it's not that. What it is that I'm taking their claim and I'm trying to get them and hold them down to actually making an actual solid claim, but I'm also showing that no matter what way they claim it, I can use their faulty logic and actual logic to show that what they're claiming is actually the antithesis would be anti towards what they're trying to prove with it. The point is that it doesn't matter what they claim, it debunks their actual claim. Logically, there's no way around it. And that's why they won't make, because I've already showed it in my video, and they know there's another video coming. That's why they won't make a solid claim. None of them will actually claim. I'm asking them all, answer this question about the airplane. All they want to do is talk about everything else but that. Because they don't want to say, yes, it's drifting in the airplane and on the Earth. They don't want to say it's only drifting on the Earth. They don't want to say it's only drifting in the airplane.
Right.
Because no matter what they claim...
This is why it's necessary to keep us considered dumb, so that when the ad hominem and personal attacks follow, you just don't understand, Brian, you're an idiot. Anybody who reads that in the comments section will accept that that's the case when they don't understand what's being argued about. Oh, everybody says that Brian just doesn't understand, and my understanding is that Brian's the stupid flat earther. Therefore, even though I don't fully understand what's being debated and discussed, and I don't recognise that people are hand-waving where they lose, or not coming up with a further rebuttal, it says that Brian's an idiot. So that's why societally they have to make it the case that we are considered stupid, so that the hand waves can be accepted by society when they're given out.
Unfortunately, you're 100% correct, Nathan.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of majoring on the minors, isn't it? With every flat earthers videos. You want to find anything you say just some small part that hundreds of them can jump on, and then try and hold you to it for the rest of your life. Like some stupid nonsense that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? That's all they ever want to do. Because
I think what they want to do is beg the question of a non-inertial turning reference frame, whether it's in relation to an inertial turning reference frame or not. And that way it's either spinning with or spinning in reference to. But as long as it's spinning, that's all they care about.
Exactly. John summed it up beautifully. So in the debate, it doesn't matter if the globe opponent or person who believes Earth is a sphere is arguing for Earth turning and us seeing no discernible effects. That would be 15 degrees an hour that they claim that we would see. It doesn't matter if they claim we won't see Earth turning underneath the gyroscope precisely as the globe claims, because they'll be claiming Earth turns with no effect to observe. So either way, they're begging the question that Earth is a turning reference frame. Either it's a turning reference frame and we see 15 degrees an hour of drift, or it's a turning reference frame and we wouldn't expect to see drift. Your reference frames are ruined, Nathan. Like Simon Dan. He's still begging the question Earth's turning, just claiming that there isn't going to be any effect to see, even though simultaneously there's a 15 degrees an hour drift being claimed to be seen. Both beg the question of turn.
Yes, but this is what I'm doing. I'm using their faulty logic and I'm turning it around on them to the point where I can tell some layman on the street that see this drift in this that's claimed, I could just tell him there's a drift in a ring laser gyro, and what that drift is the drift of the sky. Because the layman can see the sky moving, and there's no effects to show in any way, shape, or form, whether you're on the ground or in flight or in a hot air balloon, that the Earth itself is moving. So everyone can go, yeah, it's definitely the sky that's it's picking up. It doesn't matter whether the gyros don't do that, because they don't do anything like that. But the point is that these idiots on the other side have spent 5 years now saying hashtag thanks, Bob, when it's us that should be saying it as a kind of a rebuttal using their faulty logic to cause them uproar. And I am causing them uproar. If you look at what's going on, I'm causing a major uproar. It's just every day there's more and more and more views on the video, but the likes aren't going up because they know what I'm trying to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to succeed to the point where I'm already going to say to them, hashtag thanks Bob smiley face, and they're absolutely losing because they can't have that.
I was just going to ask you, Brian. So we could say thanks, Bob. That's what you're saying? I like it.
That's the point, Neil. That's the point, because if we use their logic, it's showing that the thing we do see rotating is moving at the same rate that the gyro is supposed to be moving at. So the only thing we do see rotating is the sky, and what the gyros, according to them, not me, according to them, is showing the same exact rate of drift as the sky.
Yeah, but
it's the sky, hashtag.
You say according to them, but no, according to them, they're in line with the globe claim at the point that they thank Bob. Well, you're saying no. If I take their logic, it's only demonstrating the rate of rotation of the thing we see rotating. That would be the movement of the lights in the sky. Okay, but why are you making that claim? If they make the claim correctly and say this gyroscope demonstrates a second reference frame turning at 15 degrees an hour, because I understand the principle of a gyro. It's fixed in space, and the cage that is attached to the ground moves with the Earth that's turning, as per my globe claim, and therefore Earth is turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour as a separate non-inertial turning reference frame. Not that any globe believer is ever going to concisely summarise their own bloody claim, that's the whole point. But I'm doing it. At which point, if they are in line with the globe claim of 15 degrees an hour drift, which is the globe claim, so okay, then flight times would be reduced. That would shorten flight times because Earth would be turning underneath the gyro, you said? Right, well, if it's turning underneath the gyro, then there's a second reference frame that a plane would be leaving and entering into the inertial reference frame, with Earth continuing to turn underneath, as you claim it does with this gyro, shortening the flight times. That doesn't happen. Flights travelling west don't have their flights reduced. So that debunks the claim if they are actually asserting the globe claim.
Yeah, but that's my point. The point is, I'm pointing out, no matter what they claim about this 15 degree per hour drift, there is no effect observable or shown or measurable that shows the Earth is doing this. So I'm saying, so it has to be the sky that is picking up, which means the sky is rotating. And no,
I can't believe my ears. That is precisely what the people who did this in the first place did. Well, then it must be the sky. Why?
Yeah, but I know that. I know, but I don't care. I know it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove anything. The point is I'm turning this back on the ballers. I don't give a damn about who says it's proving the sky. I know it's not proven. I know how they work. They don't prove anything about. They don't. It couldn't do it. There's no external sensors to do that. That's not how a gyro works. But they're trying to claim that it's proving the Earth is rotating, And I'm using actual logic to come to a conclusion that if it's proving anything, it could only be proving the thing we actually see rotating. And they don't want that. So I don't care if Ethereans want to go, it is proven the sky is, because it's not proven. I know it's not. I can debunk that by how the gyros work. I can show it's not doing that. The point is that they're claiming it's proving the Earth is rotating, and I'm using stupid logic, which is their logic, to show how when you come to the conclusion, it has to be only proving that the sky is rotating. The only thing we actually see rotating. And I'm trolling them with their own logic. And I'm using hashtag thanks Bob smiley face. And I want to keep using it. And I want to put people on our side in a position where we can do that to them for the next 5 years. Because everyone's sick of that.
Can I share something after John?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could see the appeal in wanting to get back at these delusional people that assert crazy things and rub their nose in it. I don't think it'll be that helpful to the average person listening.
Agree. It's convoluted enough as it is. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, I got 6 pictures in Master D plus 2 articles. Can you go to the first picture?
Morning, peeps.
Hey, Chaco. All right, so this is claimed to be time-lapse photography from the ISS. You can see, obviously, the Polaris and the concentric star circles there, and then you see Earth rotating underneath by the lights. Everyone see that?
Yes, we all do see it.
Okay, go to the next
I
picture.
don't understand it.
I'll explain in a minute. Go to the next picture. Here's another one. So you got the stars in the star trail, and then you got the Earth rotating. They're all phony pictures, by the way. Now go to the next picture. Now this next one with the mountain and the star trails behind it. This is from Earth. If Earth is rotating, that picture is impossible. It would be streaking sideways. You need a steady tripod and a camera and 4 hours. And you get a perfect star trail because the sky is moving, not the Earth. But from the previous 2 pictures, they're telling us the Earth is moving, and you see the streak on the Earth and the sky, and you see the streak in the star trails. These both can't be true. Go to the next picture. Same thing on Earth. You see the Earth there. There's no blur. There's no blur of the rock in front of you. It's just the star trails. Next picture, back in so-called second violation of thermodynamics from space. So you see a piece of the ISS in the picture. You see the star trails, and you see the Earth turning. Except if you go to the next picture and you take that same picture from Earth, the trees aren't streaking like in the previous picture.
Yeah, but you know why that is, Kent?
But let me finish.
Okay, I'll leave you go.
Go to the articles. How fast does the Earth travel while orbiting the sun? From thought.gov, and you can verify this because it's their claim. 66,660 miles per hour. And then the one after that is how fast is the Earth rotating on its axis? Okay, well, one picture, the axis, and the other picture, the orbiting, those 2 would have to, that's what they're showing in the so-called space photographs. The so-called, the alleged. But the ones taken on Earth, which anyone could do, and I've done them, is negating one of these movements.
No.
Both of these movements, because only the sky is moving. It's obvious right here.
No, concerning the ISS, no. It's funny.
What are you missing here? Okay, what are you missing in these picture claims then?
Me, I'm not missing. No, I'm trying to tell you why they can claim that there's two movements happening from the ISS. Because they try and claim that the ISS is in what they call a geosynchronous orbit with the globe, but it's not. It's moving faster than that It's moving faster in orbit. It's moving faster around the globe than the globe is rotating. So from the ISS, like conceptually, they would see two They would see two positions of light moving. They'd see the stars moving, and they'd see the globe moving underneath them. So the light, that's what you would see. If it was this, it's not real, but if it was real, that's what you would see, or something very similar.
Okay, but my point is different. My point is they have two movements. They have an axial rotation, 1,038 miles at the equator, and then they've got an orbit around the sun, takes a full year, okay, at 66,660 miles. Those two motions would affect any star trail photography taken on Earth, but it doesn't. It's over right there, because you have to say, if it's just one axial rotation, okay, it's a toss-up here in their mind, because we're not orbiting, we're just spinning on the axis, and so that's why you get the star trails. Okay, but when you bring in the orbit around the sun, now you've got that motion sideways, and you got this other motion, and that can never happen with these star trails taken from a tripod that has to be steady. I've actually accidentally hit my tripod, waited the 4 hours, and then came back and realized, oh my gosh, I must have bumped it. Had to redo the whole thing.
Okay, at this point, John Refracted Curvature is probably thinking, I'm sure I dispensed with all of this right before the conversation took place. So did you want to do that again, John?
Yeah, we don't need to assume there's a non-inertial turning reference frame. We've disproven the radius. Without that, there's no claim.
There's no axis.
There can't be a claim.
There's no axis. There can't be an axis.
Black Swan kills this all, please.
Yeah, absolutely correct. You can't have the radius value unless you can measure the radius. If you can't measure the radius, how are you going to assert you've got one?
Agreed. I like that argument a lot, but this also gives that argument strength, because my picture destroys axial rotation and orbit.
Well, bits of begging the question fallacy, which also depends on the assumption of an R value. John's right, but you are right to debate. It's fascinating, and I hope the audience enjoyed that discussion. We're going to move on and actually cover a video at some point, but I'm going to ask a particular housekeeping question before we do. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Which one?
Yeah, there's 5 gravities.
5?
Which one?
Well, I'll go on mute.
There is.
Any evidence for any of them?
And don't forget negative gravity, Brian.
Hang on.
I wake up taller in the morning.
Look, check it out. 5
Hang
people
on.
want to rumpus Brian because of his controversial statement. 5, you say,
Well,
Brian?
it's not controversial. So I can back it up. Not controversial. I'll name them out. You have so-called Einsteinian force of gravity. It's actually not. It's actually
Newtonian.
boys.
Stop. You've
Right?
started wrong already. So-called Newtonian.
So-called Newtonian. Yeah. It's not Newtonian. It's force of gravity. It's not actually Newtonian. They try and.
Hold on, let's do this more fun.
Isaac Newton.
And at number 5, we've got Newtonian gravity, the force of mass attracting mass.
Okay, I'll make it easy. Newtonian gravity, right? For a force of attraction between masses, instantaneous action at a distance.
At number
Then you
4.
Number 4, general relativity. Einsteinian relativity, which is bending of space-time and everything is confined. There is no attraction between masses, and everything is confined to this two-way light calculation.
And down 2 at number 3.
Number 3, you have quantum gravity, which involves massless particles that move around the universe instantaneously. There's several versions of it. It's yet to be finalized. And in at number 2,
a former number 1 for 2 weeks in a row, unchanged position at number 2. It's
electric gravity, right? Flat Earth Egypt. Electric gravity, which is dielectric acceleration, which is electric static electric charge causing a downward bias. And in it, number one, right? This week's number one is specific gravity. And the correct name for specific gravity is relative density. And that's official. The official correct name for specific gravity is relative density.
Okay,
which
fine.
and has been proven through scientific method.
We are going to need some things defining, though. First of all, can you define what an eejit is?
Oh, yeah, it was a nice way. Yeah, an eejit is someone who basically is stupid.
You forgot negative
Naive.
gravity.
Yeah.
It's worse than a plum, isn't it, Brian?
It's worse. It's
worse than
that.
that.
It doesn't sound as bad, but it's worse. Yeah.
Very good, Brian. I enjoyed that. That was good. And
Very
I like
good.
that. I like specific gravity because it's to do with beer and wine. So,
What about
very
negative
specific.
gravity?
What the hell's negative
negative
gravity? You just
gravity.
made this up.
what, specific gravity?
But you know about specific gravity, right?
Are you hearing Neil? Is he coming through on FM or
I
what?
have. I've heard him.
No?
Negative gravity. Come on, I heard it all week.
That's at number 6.
It'll soon be number one.
Number
No, it
6. You
won't.
started
Hold on.
off with 5. How'd you get 6?
I need to
Negative
rein in my
that's
panel, don't I,
anti-gravity.
ladies and gentlemen? Something's got to be done. Okay, so as it wouldn't be fair to not ask this question straight after the gravity question, is there any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Dark
No.
matter.
They only have a
No.
DV. They
Dark
only have
matter.
observed phenomenon.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd give them the observed phenomenon if they were a heliocentrist, but they could have an observed phenomenon.
Yeah, it's a bit ambiguous, isn't it? It depends what they're claiming. If they're going to claim Earth as a sphere, then what's your phenomena? There isn't one. However, if they're claiming twinkle, twinkle, okay, fine, yeah, you've got a phenomena. Now show us the cause. No. Just so story. What do you mean you want a cause? Okay, so in the pre-show we were... Hello, Quantum Eraser, by the way. In the pre-show we were covering... good timing from Elvis. Elvis Kavovic, shout out for the super chat. He says... just move my
Eid
monitor. 1
Mubarak.
sec. Eid McBark. What the hell? Am I on acid here? What's this super chat say?
It's either tomorrow or Saturday. It should be Eid for Muslims. So it's Eid Mubarak.
Eid.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Okay. To all folks who celebrate heart. Okay. So he's saying to all people who celebrate Eid, heart. Indeed, my sentiments as well, if I could read. Yes, if you're about to celebrate Eid, many happy returns. Indeed you do. Thank you for the super chat, Elvis Kavovic. Really appreciate the support.
And happy 420 to everybody today.
Yeah, which no one cares about.
All right.
Eid's an actual...
Thank you, Arwen.
Yeah, way to demean Eid. Thank you so much.
What's 420?
You can't... Ask what Eid is. God. My panel. I'm really sorry, Elvis. Hopefully that wasn't blasphemous.
Is that an Islamic thing?
Yeah, so it's to celebrate the end of Ramadan. So they've been fasting, Muslims, haven't they? For the past month.
Well, it only proves one thing, that there's no way Nathan's from Birmingham, because he would know that.
I just can't read. It doesn't change the fact that I'm from an 99% Muslim part of Birmingham. That is true. Anyway, look, let's not discuss my past in regards to that. Let's get on with covering what we were covering in the pre-show. So, prepare for outrage right at 45-minute mark. Let's just see how many people are actually watching. Over 100 people watching. That's pretty good. Excellent. Okay, well, let's get on with it. So, in the pre-show, we were covering a little bit of Wired. So, as is always the case, in the vain hope that this person would actually respond to my video and put a link to me, I'm going to share their link so you can help them. Not that they need any. They've got 10 million subscribers, but in the algorithm by leaving them a comment and just letting them know. Nathan Oakley, 1980, sent me because obviously we love your stuff. And yeah, that's why we responded to it. Because we were in such thorough agreement. Anyway, we'll carry on from where we left off. So obviously there's been a giant gap now if you were listening to us respond to this in the pre-show. If you're not a member, become a member, or if not, wait till Sunday and it'll come out on the Nathan Oakley channel. However, I will mention this little detail. I'm going to push the Uncut and After Show forward an hour. So if you aren't a member and you do happen to watch the Uncut and After Show several days after it comes out for the members, and if you don't know what the Uncut and After Show is, it's the bit that continues to be recorded after the live show ends. Hence the name After Show. Anyway, that comes out on Sunday. So today's show will come out now and from this point forth on a Sunday. So if you're watching on a Thursday, it comes out on a Sunday on the second channel. But at 10 o'clock from now on. So I only realised because of the way my brain works that it's actually about an hour before everyone finishes work for the most part in the States. So that's why I'm like, why is the number so low in the first hour and then suddenly they jump up or double in the second hour? And someone from the chat pointed out it's because no one's home from work yet. I was like, all right, okay. Well, then in that case, to not have a conflict with Ballbusters on a Saturday, rather than just changing one time for a Saturday show once a fortnight, I'm going to change them all. So it'll just be at 10 o'clock UK on the second channel from now on. Just so I'm mentioning it. But more importantly, go and leave a comment just saying Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me on Wired's video. So they know that we're responding to their nonsense. Also, shout out to Goldie McKinnon, says, good morning from Flat, Florida. Really appreciate the support, Goldie. Thank you very much indeed for that super chat.
He was actually taller than his twin brother. Yeah, and that was because gravity wasn't compressing him all the time, and he was floating freely in the International Space Station, and his spine just kind of elongated.
Just like Superman, he was flying in the ISS. Yeah? Because that's what people can do. They can fly. This magic man up in heaven, floating down, looking over you, had his spine uncompressed as he flew. Yeah, men can't fly. This is utter nonsense. To be in flight, as she's just described, would require the presupposition of the orbital motion around a spherical Earth to be true in a sky vacuum. It simply isn't. She's just brainwashing a kid into the belief that men fly. Literally, she's telling this child that men can fly. They can't. They're liars. They've got trapeze. They've got high wire. Yeah, that's what they're on, harnesses. They're not flying. They're liars. And by extension, so are you, as you tell this child that men can fly.
After a while here on Earth, though, he'll readjust. They'll go back to the same size. Have you ever heard of how gravity was discovered? Mm-hmm. Isaac Newton would ponder, how does the Earth cause things to fall?
So we've now got an absolute affirmation that she's definitely lying to this child. So how has gravity been invented? What the one that's 108 years out of date and definitely isn't true? Yeah? Let's quote Feynman. The laws of motion of Newton were not right. End quote. Richard Feynman. So she's just lying. Or she's completely thick. No, we know she's lying. It's part of the curriculum. Go ahead. Was that Adam, I assume?
That was me. I was just going to say she's also incorrect. That's actually started with Johannes Kepler. He was the inspiration for Newton.
There's a famous story that Isaac Newton was sitting under a tree and the apple fell from the tree and hit him on the head. Ooh. And he had an epiphany and understood this law, this mathematical law for how that works. I don't actually think it's a true story, though.
Was that an embedded confession? Because it's not a true story, because it's superseded by the notion that Earth moves up towards the apple at 9.8 meters per second squared, as per the assertions of Einsteinian 108 years more recent rhetoric that you've just ignored in favour of lying to this child. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that the Einsteinian fourth-dimensional space-time bending is true. I'm just pointing out that by virtue of their own religious belief in heliocentrism, this is factually wrong, and therefore a lie. She's just lying to this child about what the force of gravity is, as per the Newtonian description of an apple falling on his head when Einstein says that the Earth moves up. So it's just a lie. She's just indoctrinating and brainwashing this small child with fear porn.
Yeah. But it's a good story.
While simultaneously telling her that the men are gods flying around in heaven. What she's telling this small child, it's disgusting. It really leaves a bitter taste in my mouth for the world that I actually inhabit.
Isaac Newton realized that
points
even
on
if...
the bit I just heard, Nathan.
Go ahead.
First was discovered. not sure if he found a bag of gravity, Newton, as she's described. But then she goes on to say, and create a mathematical law. I don't know what that is.
It's not a law anymore. It's been superseded. The law isn't a law because the notion of mass attracting mass would assert that the clouds would come towards the ground. What's that you say? Oh, no. The air around it's being poured down, go boom boom, forcing the clouds up. Really? What? Because there's loads of gas factories up in heaven where the men fly. No, there is not. All of the gases are produced at ground level and make their way up. Yeah, the gases can fly away from gravity, but the men can't.
That would oppose the mathematical law then.
Yes.
Disprove it.
Yes. It doesn't matter that it's mathematically disproven and 108 years out of date. This old crone will lie to children with it, as will all the teachers in your current education system. They all lie to children too.
If you're heavier, you will fall at the same rate as something much lighter.
Right, like a cloud. I wonder how heavy clouds are. How are you going to weigh that? Is it coming down? Go boom boom? Go splash splash? Is that what clouds do? Yeah? Now, gases don't do that. Of course, you haven't got gases behaving like gas. You've got men behaving like gas as they fly around in heaven. That's what this girl's just been led to believe. That the men, the lying shits that they are, on their trapeze, they're actually flying. Yeah, what a crock of crap. I hope the people who lie through their back teeth, that would be astronauts, burn in hell. Because they are literally deceiving the world into the belief that they behave like gods flying around in heaven. It's disgraceful. Quick shout out.
She also got wrong. She also said, do you have a super chat? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, shout out to Face Reality, who says, lying to the young and innocent equals fart emoji, fire emoji, hands in the air emoji. I don't speak emoji, but I'm sure that's true. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, she also, it's another thing she doesn't, I'm sure, maybe she does know it, but she's telling a lie there to the child. That she said, a heavy object and a light object will fall at the same rate. No, they won't. That's a pre-assumed, that's a calculation that's pre-assumed to happen, that all objects within a vacuum fall at the same rate. Maybe they do, but we don't live in a vacuum. So in reality, that doesn't happen.
We would be living in a vacuum if the sky
of it.
was one. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 tour at sea level. If the sky was a vacuum, we'd all be dead. We don't live in a vacuum. You're absolutely correct. So it's irrelevant how something that nature abhors, that would be a vacuum, has things behaving in it. Nature's abhorring it, my love. And gas isn't going down, go boom, boom. Yeah, and the men aren't flying. Men aren't behaving like gas in a sky vacuum. It's nonsense.
That's the same. Once you hit the ground, if you're heavier, you'll hit the ground with much greater force, but you will hit the ground at the same time.
So if we both dropped down from a plane, we would both land at the same time, but...
What about the helium balloon you released as you jumped out the plane? Is that going to hit the ground at the same time, my love? Oh, she's not going to tell you about how gas behaves. She's just going to tell you how solids behave in gas. The gas itself, in terms of how the helium would behave, is going to be completely ignored in favour of a lie that all things are attracted to the ground because mass attracts mass. What about the mass of the gases? Gas goes down, go boom, boom also. No, it doesn't. But that's what they'll lie to children with. This nonsense that's 108 years out of date.
But you would land heavier?
Yep. So like a penny from the Empire State Building will fall at the same rate as a bowling ball.
What about if that bowling ball was super, super thin and filled with helium? You know, a bowling ball-shaped helium balloon. Will that fall at the same rate if you drop it off the Empire State Building? What about if you release the helium balloon shaped like a bowling ball at the same rate as a penny? Which is going to hit the ground first. Oh, what's that? The balloon's gone? Never to be seen again? Definitely not hitting the ground? Why aren't you telling her about that? Would that involve debunking the entire premise of this mass-attracting mass nonsense that's already been superseded in your own bloody religion of heliocentrism? I think so. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, hey, that wasn't Neil, that was me. But I'm also pretty sure that even the aerodynamics of a coin is not going to make it fall at the same speed as a bowling ball, which is like an ideal shape, let air pass by it, right? So I think that the coin is probably going to arrive a little later than the bowling ball. So
What
it's
about
just wrong, flat out.
Which direction is the air that they're displacing moving?
The air is not moving.
No, the air
It's
is definitely
pushed.
moving. Which direction? Does it have a bias down at 9.8 meters per second? The air that the
Moving
bowling
all
ball
over.
and penny are displacing? Are they moving down, the air particles?
No, not like that.
Every direction.
Every direction. But that doesn't sound like things being attracted to the ground at 9.8 meters per second squared. That doesn't sound like a downward bias. That doesn't sound like down at all. That sounds like a lot of things go up. In fact, gas moves in all directions. But when we displace the gas that's going in all directions, debunking the notion that things go down, things go down? Well, how interesting. It's not shock that this is 108 years out of date, I would suggest. 108, just like the number of people watching. Please smash that share button. Hopefully we'll get a few more people watching. If so, we'll extend the live show, although there is only 5 minutes left on the clock.
Can I just say real quick what irks me about this lady already? Not only the fact that she's brainwashing a kid literally right now in this video, but a few minutes ago, didn't she whisper under her breath after telling the story of the apple that she doesn't really believe it's a real story anyway?
It's an embedded confession.
Yeah. So the reason she can get away with this nonsense is because she's talking to a kid, because this kid is not going to say to her, well, what about the other part of the story that you're talking about? Why should you believe that instead of that part, that particular part? Oh, about the apple. You don't believe that, but you believe people are floating around in a sky vacuum? It's like they can get away with it because they're talking to kids. It's disgusting to me.
That comes later, Chocolate. This is 5 levels of explaining gravity. Starts with a child, ends with one of her own.
Oh, this is that video?
Yep.
But excuse me, Mrs. Astrophysicist. What about if a leaf comes off and goes up? Oh, well, my dear, that would be because a high-pressure gas is moving into a low-pressure gas, creating wind. That's not the same as gravity. I see. So in order for the leaf to go up, we'd need high pressure to go into low pressure. So the low pressure of the sky vacuum would leave us all dead? Yeah, she's not going to do that, is she? Because she's about 6.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Looks up at a sky vacuum where the men are floating around. After saying, oh my God. Which way are her eyes pointing? Oh, they're pointing at the twin astronauts flying in space, defying all natural law.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, not amazing. Just a total lie. You scumbag witch.
Yeah. A light object? See how light that is?
That's
no under a helium balloon. Yeah? No, you're not going to do that, are you? You're just going to indoctrinate this kid, aren't you?
Very light.
But what they do, just very quickly, what they do is they did it with us, did it with me, is they create an emotional connection when you're a child with the heliocentric model and the aspects of it. So that child has been told this kind of pretty terrible information from this lady, and that child will also watch movies that show sci-fi in space, and it creates an emotional tie. So people don't want to let it go because it has a subconscious connection to when you were a child. When simple things made you happy.
Can you point out for me on the globe where they emotionally touched you, Brian?
Everywhere. They touched me everywhere, Nathan. But the thing about it is that
can you point it on the globe,
they do
please?
create these. Go on.
Can you point specifically? Don't worry, it was the same joke.
It was at the bottom.
Gonna play, or do you want a bit more? I'll play.
Yeah. And a heavy object?
Oh my God.
They look the same, but this is much heavier, right? Okay, so try it. Just try holding your arms out front and a little higher maybe. Give them a chance to drop, and then drop them.
Now have a little ball with helium in it that's really thin. Looks the same, right? Wow, it's gone up to the ceiling and it's staying there.
Did they fall at the same time? Did they hit?
No, the one that was full of helium went up. said this woman. No, we're saying it. What, the lying, scummy, thick flat earthers? Pointing out that all things don't go down, and even in their own globe rhetoric, things aren't moving down, the Earth's moving up, according to Einstein. But making this unequivocally lies that she's telling this child. We all picking up what I'm putting down? I hope you'll share this show.
At the same time? So Isaac Newton, he was also the one who realized that that's the same force that keeps the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the Earth in orbit around the sun. And
yet there's a problem with those bodies, specifically if you try and mathematicize them in Einsteinian mechanics. But yet she's just detailing it in Newtonian because she's lying to this child. So obviously when mass is attracting mass, you can detail it from all sorts of different perspectives. One mass attracting another. Notwithstanding the fact that this is out of date and Einsteinian maths don't account for this and can't.
Right. Also, a little bit of a big leap there from a ball falling to the ground to that ball falling to the ground. That's the same thing that makes balls in the sky move in circular motion in relation to one another.
Yeah, exactly, Arwin. I should have picked up on that because I've just harped on about it. It's the reason the men fly, isn't it, Arwin?
Basically, yeah, that's the claim.
They're in orbit. The reason they're flying, as in they're falling and the container they're in is falling in the sky vacuum where the gas we're breathing isn't filling, means that with relation to the surroundings, they are flying. I mean, it's not like they are. They're actually perpetually falling, like this ball that's just fell in front of you because that's how gravity works, right? When I talk about mass attracting mass, which it doesn't. And doesn't in my own religion that I'm peddling wrong to you, the child. But that's why the men can fly. Child glances up at ceiling and says, "Oh my God."
That's a huge leap.
But look at the okie doke she's pulling off, right? She's showing this kid, she's comparing to this kid two things that are both heavier than the medium that's in, that are both going to fall, and ignoring the fact that not everything acts that way, and then presupposes that that's what explains why people are floating around in the sky vacuum. So instead of saying, oh, well, some things don't go down in air, some things go up. No. Let's take two things that both go down in air, tell you one's going to hit the ground before the other, nice okie doke, while we ignore things that actually go in the air. She's gross, this lady.
It's an outrage, isn't it?
Crap.
I mean, I get outraged.
Like Arwen said, is non sequitur because she just dropped two balls and then she went to the moon. Well, why isn't the moon falling to the earth?
Exactly. It's a complete cluster screw. But I get outraged when it's people teaching children, and this is no different. She's effectively a teacher in this scenario, hence my over-the-top outrage, which isn't just put on for dramatic effect.
Looking at just things around him and then looks at the stars and has this really big realization that that's actually the same force. So
a few quotes, perhaps. George Musa, Scientific American, gravity is not a force. Brian Cox, quote, there isn't really a force of gravity at all, end quote. But she's going to lie to this child, this astrophysicist, lying to the child about the force. And it's not a force. You should damn well know that. Maybe you do and you're lying anyway.
What have you learned today talking about
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
I just want to say two totally different topics, but this is the same type of path that this new thing that everybody's complaining about with the grooming of the children. They're getting them early, and they're disorientating them from reality and putting these things in their minds so they can groom them to grow up earlier and accept it as they keep grooming them until they become teenagers. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this gender crap. But this sorceress woman right here is the same. They're the same dark priests that I speak about that are in the institutions that are doing this. They're literally doing this because they're trying to groom society to become artificial, unrealistic, and leaning upon their I wouldn't even give it a credit of being abstract, but their total fantastical, even wicked paradigms. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think on that note, I am actually going to round out and say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in, smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Still pertinent.
What's
Yeah, I
pertinent?
think it's the top 30 videos that get hits on YouTube, something like that, Kent, isn't it?
What's pertinent?
The video, even though it's a little bit older, because a lot of us seen this a while ago, but still pertinent.
I want to cover that tomorrow. I don't want to do it in the after show. I want to do it in the live show. I kind of regret doing the beginning part in the pre-show. Good video, whoever picked that.
That's
Yeah, I was
longevity
hoping
on it.
you
You've
would-
got 5 good vids there. haven't you? You split it up into 5 shows each stage. So
I don't know if you remember, we've talked about this video before. We weren't doing like reviews like we do now, but we've definitely brought this up before. I know I have for a fact.
What are you trying to say? You trying to say we don't pay attention to you?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Brian brought it up 3 weeks before Chocolate seen it.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I
he
definitely
he
remember
definitely
that.
did.
Yes. Brian brought it up.
Arwen stole it after that.
No, Brian mentally
always
stole it
steals
from
my
Arwen.
thoughts. No, Arwen steals my thoughts. That's why he's a thought stealer.
No. Arwen said he was at peace with people stealing his thoughts on yesterday's show. You know, he accepts that.
Of course he is, because he steals everyone else's thoughts. That's what he does.
Okay, we're all joking. None of us are witches. Maybe Arwen.
How do you know that?
Exactly. Arwen's a mind vampire.
Vampire? No way.
What's up, guys?
I'm a mind cultivator. I don't just suck things dry and leave them to die.
Sky is whoever asked.
How you guys doing?
Very well, Eli. So we are
Am I
joined
coming
by
in clear?
Eli GPT.
So clear that I didn't even recognize your voice. I was like, who's that?
It's like soon as I go outside, it just like drowns out all the other. I don't know, but
it's
yeah.
clear.
Hey,
You sound like you're in a toilet.
Yeah, or understairs cupboard, maybe.
Oh, I don't know why that is. How about now?
Yeah, you immediately acoustically treated the entire room. I don't know what you did. It was magic.
He must carry like egg boxes around with him or something.
So it's like I think it's the way that I have my headphones in. I think I'm clogging the talk hole somehow.
The talk hole.
Put it in your ear.
That's the talk hole.
Eli,
Whatever.
take it out of your nose and put it in your ear. It might work better.
Let's stick with the talk hole.
Look, if Eli wants to talk like a 1930s prospector, that's fine.
But so Brian, you missed it. The best term for anti-flat earthers yet.
Bigots.
Bigot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bev was talking about that 12 months ago. He was calling them bigots 12 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but did he
was.
define it and have an over-the-top realization that that's the correct word? Because if he didn't, then it's all ours. We're taking full credit, maybe with a little bit to Eli. Now, I'm not going to deny Bev's understanding of the English language isn't terrible. Let's be honest. What was that? I had a grunt from Quantum Eraser. I know that grunt.
Flat.
Are we not all kumbaya now? Is that not the way forward?
Well, you stopped doing the review video, so we need a topic.
I'm eating pizza.
This is the way.
How about Eli's talk hole?
It's too technical
You
for
ain't
me.
gonna let that. He ain't gonna let that talk. That's a classic. I'm clogging the talk hole. That's something I would say.
Okay, then.
So whenever I mumble now, I'm going to be told to get nearer my talk hole.
I think this will stick, yes. Unfortunately, it already seems to be the case that talk hole will be something we refer to again. Get closer to your talk hole, please, Adam.
Sorry. Has it been upgraded from pie hole?
The pie hole's your mouth.
If you're not gonna,
Yeah,
If
it's got to
you're
put
not
the pie
gonna
hole
mute-
to the talk hole.
Exactly.
if you're not gonna mute, close the talk hole.
Shut your pie hole. Close your talk hole. We're all going to...
Back to the word bigot. Can you read the definition of that again, Adam? You have it from yesterday?
Are we really going to do this again? Are we that excited about a new word?
Yes,
No,
and you
but
know why?
because
You
it
know why?
fits.
Because let me tell you what happened on Facebook yesterday. So I got muted from commenting, and the moderator says, "You're going to stay muted because you're calling people bigots, and you're going to tell me why in the inbox." And I said, "Okay, here's the screenshot of exactly that." And he's like, "Yeah, but you're not telling me how he's being a bigot." I'm like, "Okay, he doesn't know me." And he says, "I don't understand how low my self-worth is to be a flirt." And he's like, "Yeah, but that's not being a bigot." And I just love it because, I mean, how dumb do you have to be to just
That's
deny
not...
what's
No.
right there?
Don't ascribe that to being stupid. Right, okay, you could, and it's right to. But I'm saying don't focus on that. Because in that guy's mind, in that moment, but you are a flurf. And therefore
Right.
deservant of his bigotry. And you calling him what he absolutely is, I don't see that as reasonable, given that you are a flurf. That's the attitude of the general consensus society we live in.
Yeah.
Yes,
In fact,
especially because he agrees with what you just said. So him agreeing that that guy you're talking about is a bigot would make that guy a bigot. You know what I'm saying?
no, I mean, that's ridiculous. Somebody else did admit, well, I guess I am a bigot, but she did end up having a good conversation with me though, and now knows about the black swan and is like, okay. So, but people hate it, and that's why I like talking about it. So,
If you go, Nathan, onto comments on the video that you're reviewing, my first one says, they should have had 6 levels for this video, which goes flat earther, child, teen, college student, graduate, and expert. And if you just read the comments, they're totally doing what Eli's talking about through this whole comments, not realizing that they're a product of consensus science and don't know what they're talking about.
That their bigotry is as a result of the consensus science that they've been indoctrinated with. And they praise the very indoctrination process as it's disseminated to them. There's a lot of truthers out there that talk about putting the truth in plain sight. If you show somebody how the magic trick works, that can often work to your advantage. There's because I used to study this in college, I've still got a mild fascination for certain magic tricks that I don't know how they're done, because I learned a lot of them in college. But what I like currently on YouTube is people taking the Penn and Teller approach, which is showing somebody how a magic trick is done, but turning the process of showing you how you've been deceived into an entertaining trick in and of itself. So in other words, taking away the curtain, doing the trick without the curtain, but making you realise how the trick works just as entertaining as having the trick done. Yeah? Pulling back the curtain, in essence. But making that process still work as a trick to make you amused or to bewilder you or to whatever, keep your entertainment level high. Well, that's what this is. Watch how we have indoctrinated you. And you go, yeah, I remember being told that. Yeah? But the person making the video is literally hiding the truth of how they've indoctrinated you right under your very nose, to the point where the person who's free of the indoctrination, me, is absolutely disgusted and outraged by it. But you, the bigot, nods along and agrees. What a stark difference we have in our societal life that we face.
Let me read another one. I had the pleasure to see Janet Levin present as a guest speaker at Winton Capital in London. She was part of those gravity wave detection experiments she talks about in this video. It was a fantastic experience, and to see how humble yet engaging she can be, both in person and in this video.
Spellcasting, witchcraft. People don't understand what those words mean. Yeah? I'm not suggesting she should be burnt at the stake like we were in the Dark Ages, but what I am suggesting is that the craft of language is magic. So if you want to call her a witch, because what she's doing is creating a world where men fly in the mind's eye of this child. What's she doing it with? Has she got a magic wand? No, she's merely got her grammar, her words, her spells, and her spelling. That's what she's using to create.
She's invoking an illusion.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was detailing. Thank you, though.
The person that learned about the apple.
Newton.
He was learning about gravity, just about what he saw on this planet. I also learned that if you drop one light thing and one heavy thing at the same height at the same time, they're both going to drop at the same time, but...
Yet my 6-year-old understands how helium balloons work. This 6-year-old, after encountering this witch, thinks all things fair to the ground. Is that right, my dear? Look up at the clouds. Next time you're thinking about men flying and declaring, oh my God, look at the clouds and ask yourself if they fell to the ground, go boom, boom.
You see what just happened? Summarize my brainwashing, please. Okay, you're good to go.
Does it
But
really fall at the same
that's
time, though? Sorry.
That's no, you go ahead.
No, I was just asking if is that true? Does a brick and a feather fall at the same time? I don't think that's true.
Come away from the light, Neil. Steer away from the... Don't look at the light!
But it's funny, Nathan. You say your 6-year-old knows how a helium balloon works, right? So I'm pretty sure so does this little girl, right? I'm sure at some point, I obviously can't be 100%, but I'm sure she's experienced a helium balloon at a party or something like that, right? So she knows how that works, but we're not going to talk about it. Again, we're just going to focus on two things that we know are going to fall in the medium that we're talking about and completely ignore anything else that acts differently, like a helium balloon going up in the same medium that these two balls are falling down. Awesome freaking witchcraft this lady's doing.
Like one's going to drop a little heavier than the other.
That's beautiful. I'm impressed.
Beautiful. It wasn't even good English. Ugh. But she understood the brainwashing, so the English doesn't matter. She doesn't need to be casting these spells. So long as she can disseminate that the spell has been casted upon her, it doesn't matter how good her grammar is. Right? Yeah, you understand. Planets, men flying, gravity. You're on your way. Go on, next.
So, Maria, you're in high school?
Yeah, I'm a junior.
And are you studying any sciences in high school?
I'm taking physics right now.
Do you think of yourself as curious about science?
Well, there are like some things that interest me and others that...
Wow, check out the leading questions on this woman. Wow, she's getting agreement ladder out of her. She's a salesman. My God.
bore me, so it like depends.
What interests you?
Well, like I'm a gymnast, so like in physics they talk about like force and stuff, and then I think of like how I use physics in like my own life.
What's your impression of what gravity is?
I think that if there's like no gravity, everyone would like float everywhere. It like
What, like the men that float in space? Oh, isn't that convenient? I wonder why this woman made the edit. I say woman, this is still technically a child in the States, right?
pulls things down, and without it, like everything would just be like chaos.
So you're saying gravity pulls...
Without gravity, there'd be chaos, according to this high school student. Do you hear that? Chaos? Why? Talking about fourth dimensional space-time bending. What are you talking about? What chaos are you inferring? No, the chaos is you floating off into the sky vacuum if it wasn't for the force of down. That's what's going to be detailed, because at this level, she's still going to be taught Newtonian, in name only, gravity.
Pulls things down. Yet we've launched things into space. Have you ever wondered how we do that?
But is it like a slingshot? Like if you pull something back enough, it'll like go in the opposite direction?
Well, that's true. We do use slingshot technology once things are out in the solar system. So for instance, we use Jupiter and other planets so that when some of the spacecraft gets close, it'll slingshot around and it'll...
She's talking about stuff that this girl will never experience and detailing ideas and assumptions based on the church's ideas of the motions of the sky to give them a non-force to slingshot things around when escape velocity has presumably been achieved, which you'll detail in a moment, I don't doubt. Right, why are you detailing forces? I don't get it.
She'll need R for that. She'll need R for that.
And she'll need to prove the radius of Earth to get the presuppositions of the distances that these spacecraft have traversed a sky vacuum in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Again, is that going to be mentioned? What about the gas pressure differential that we'd experience in terms of it all rushing into the sky vacuum, the gas we're breathing? No, that'll get no mention.
Cause it to like speed up. But mostly around the Earth, gravity pulls things down. So
gravity's not a force. It doesn't pull anything. It's not a force. So you're going to lie to this near adult now? What, based on her age range? She's still worthy of the same lie, is she?
Nathan, can you mark this? Nathan, please mark this a minute, second mark for me. What is it on the video?
6 minutes 25.
Thank you. Come on, Erwin.
I'm still wondering, like, where does the something falling down, which is all in a straight line, right? How does that connect up to falling in a circle, which is orbits? I mean, the connection's never been laid. It's just from, things falling down, that means moving in a circle.
Really?
I mean, I keep seeing this.
This is basic orbital motion. You're saying you don't understand basic orbital motion? You want me to explain basic orbital motion to you?
Sure.
Okay. Imagine you've got a cannon and you're firing it up in the air and you fire it at a certain rate. Why am I doing this? She's probably going to do it for this child in a minute, Arwin.
So when we want to send a rocket into space, when we want to go to the moon, when we want to send supplies to the International Space Station.
They don't do this. But of course, it's taken as read, as she explains in the story, based on images that the children have been indoctrinated with rockets going up into the sky, that those rockets are actually going into a sky vacuum, taking goods and services to the men who fly. That's what she's now taken as read. Not because it's been explained or justified or proven, it's just taken as read. Why? Well, because every child has already been indoctrinated with the idea of men floating in space. We just saw that 2 minutes earlier.
The trick is to get something moving fast enough that it escapes the gravitational pull of the Earth.
There you go, Arwin.
Have you heard the expression, what goes up must come down?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not true. If you throw it fast enough, you can actually get something that doesn't come back down again. And that's basically how rocket launches work. You have...
All right, so by that standard, all the gas that's going up, because it's no longer having the pull of gravity that's not a force, but you can think of it as a force even though it's not a force, and there isn't really a force of gravity at all, then the gas would be escaping into the sky vacuum. Because it's overcome the effects of gravity, and obviously that is the case. I'm looking up at a cloud right now. So all of it would vacate into space. Because you're describing how things can not just go up, but they don't just come down, they can also carry on going. What, like a gas particle that goes in all vectors, in all directions at a very high velocity? Or what's that? It's not enough to escape? So what, first law of thermodynamics violation? Just decides to stop at the Kármán line, does it? No, this double-speaking fundy witch is now going to describe how solid objects can traverse the sky vacuum. That's what she's going to detail. Notwithstanding the fact that gas would also vacate into that lower pressure system, in line with entropic law. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Yeah, that was me. Go to Master D. I got a picture for your cannon and their globe.
Okay, we got it up. Did you want to detail it?
No, this was the point you were making, so I just gave you the image for the audience to see.
Okay, so yeah, you fire the cannon, and essentially at enough speed, it will remain perpetually falling in a presupposed circular motion named orbit. Okay,
If you
that's
want
space.
it to leave, their escape velocity, I'm not sure if she's going to mention it, is 40,000 kilometers an hour. It's going to be some fast rocket.
But look,
Plus, you're going to need R for that.
it's still only just being described. It still doesn't explain like how that is even how an orbit then works. Like, how can you throw something in a circle and then it just keeps on going?
Well, maybe I got one. Wait, I got one. Look, how about how fast is a gas particle then?
It's about 5,000 or 6,000 miles per hour, isn't it?
That escape velocity? Like how? What about
No.
that? But
No. But in terms of entropic diffusion, right? The reason we have wind is because of high pressure following entropic law and moving into lower pressures. That's what gas does. Now, notwithstanding the fact that to have that example, we would have to have a contained system, the heliocentric model has a sky vacuum. That's a lower pressure. So regardless of what they describe with orbital motion, when they completely ignore gas behavior, because everything's falling to the ground, isn't it? She's already detailed that to a child. So with that in mind, the other solid items, well, they're not going to come down so long as they can go fast enough to achieve something called escape velocity. Then they'll be in a perpetual circle, always falling. Like the ball you had falling. Why? Well, because they're in orbit, as per Kepler's assumptions. So all of this nonsense is just leading to the description of a man falling with the reference frame of the cage around him, in this case the ISS, also falling. Therefore, men can fly.
Have to get the rocket for the Earth to go more than 11 kilometers a second. Think of how fast it is. Just one breath, and it's gone 11 kilometers. If you get it to go that fast, it's not going to come back down again. So you know the International Space Station, which is orbiting the Earth? That's going around the Earth at like 17,000 miles an hour. It has no engines anymore. The engines are turned off. So it's just, they're falling forever. So once it's out there...
Just out there in the sky vacuum. Okay, useful picture where we've got a high pressure gas. This blue and white bit. What's the white? Oh, clouds. All right, so they've gone up from ground level and they're starting to go through a phase change, right? But they're surrounded by gas. This is the gas, isn't it? Claimed to be from this bullshit picture. Well, this is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. Yeah, the high pressure gas, regardless of what they describe in escape velocity, would continue in its trajectory, whatever vector it may be, into whatever area of volume it has to fill. In this case, this whole black area, which is supposed to be a vast, never-ending space, called space. Well, that would be a space that the gas could fill. We'd all be dead if this was true. But she'll go on about how solid items that are the only thing that would come back down through gas, the air we're breathing, because those two same balls, for all we know, one might float in water while the other might sink, i.e. in a different medium. But again, that will be ignored in favour of these solids now no longer obeying their own bullshit description of everything going down. Even though that simple premise is defied by gas behaviour and simultaneously ignored when these things don't come down because they're perpetually falling down. Alright, so falling down all the time around a presupposed sphere Earth in an orbital motion assumed by Kepler to explain how the lights would eventually reach a certain position at a certain time to predict Easter. Therefore, these bullshit pictures, they prove the sky is a vacuum and that men are up there flying in it. It's just nonsense.
It's not coming back down as long as it's cruising like that.
And like, does the gravity pull it, or is it just like floating?
In a weird way, that is gravity pulling it. So have you ever had a yo-yo?
Gravity pulling it because it's a force, right? Gravity pulling things. This lying witch. You're lying to this child. Go on.
It's in a weird way too, you know? It's like, ooh, spooky.
No, but it's not a force. Gravity is not a force. Is it me saying that? No, that's Scientific American saying that. Yeah, George Musa saying that. It's Professor Brian Cox saying that. It's a whole string of people who are not lying to children. But this woman's more than content to lie to this child. Yeah, in a kind of strange, weaselly word way kind of force. Yeah. No, it isn't. Just lying. But you needed to be absolutely firm in the idea that it is a force before you tell her it isn't. In a completely different world with a fourth dimension of space-time bending that isn't a force. But up until this age, she better damn well know that it's a force that's stopping her flying, like the gods that the other child declared, oh my God, as she looked up. Yeah, they are the ones that fly, and but for the magical force of gravity, you'd be flying too. But you're not. Only the men in the spaceships do. They fly, you don't. Gravity is the force that stops you. We all clear? On your way. Until you get a bit older, then I'll tell you it isn't really a force of gravity at all. Like Cox does. But at the moment, you're not old enough for me to tell you the truth, so I'll tell you it's kind of in a roundabout Weasley word way of force. Pulling things. No, it isn't. Lying witch.
Swing it around like this. The string is pulling it in at all times, but you've also given it this angular momentum.
So that would be like tensile strength that you can measure in the string then, in terms of its opposition to the outward force when you swing it round. Yeah, you could measure all of those forces, couldn't you now, love? Is gravity a force you can measure? Let's ask Brian Cox. What's that, Brian? There isn't really a force of gravity at all? So what, no tensile strength to compare to a piece of string holding something then? Just a lying witch lying to our children then? Yeah, we know. That's why we'll be censored to the bottom of all YouTube lists. And this will have its audience of 10.2 million laughed at as they show you how they lie to your kids.
And as long as you give it the angular momentum, pulling it in actually keeps it in orbit. And so the Earth...
So momentum, angular momentum, comparable to a non-force. Liar. Witch. You're using your magic words to indoctrinate this, unbeknownst to her, victim of you.
Is pulling it in...
Pulling like a force, lies, witch, deceit.
At all times. So that's why it doesn't just travel off in a straight line. It keeps coming back around. So
total nonsense.
It's funny, people think that the International Space Station is so far away that they're not feeling gravity.
Feeling what, a non-force? How are you going to feel it? It's not a force. But you're going to tell her what people don't think?
And that's not the case at all. They're absolutely feeling gravity.
Even though it's not a force? They're feeling it as they fly? Something you'd be doing if it wasn't for this force that she'll later in life be told isn't a force? Just absolutely outrageous.
They're just cruising so fast that even though they're being pulled in, they never get pulled to the surface.
What about the gas? Does that reach the Kármán line and decide to go back down, go boom boom? Because gas that moves at high speed in all vectors and only changes vector if it collides with another gas particle or the walls of a container, that will go down, go boom boom. But the magic men in the light in the sky, they are flying.
It's like that, the ride at the roller coasters where you you go in and it spins super fast and you can't feel it spinning fast.
No, that is actually you falling. Yeah, you and the thing you're in are both falling when you go down on the roller coaster. Yeah, that's what's actually happening in that instance. And you definitely feel it, don't you? A lot of people scream because of how much they feel it.
Yeah, you feel pinned to the back. It's exactly like that.
Even though they're flying and not pinned to a damn thing. So this contradictory doublespeak where the men in the ISS are pinned to the walls of the ISS. You double-speaking witch.
There's something called the equivalence principle where people realized, and especially Einstein, that if you were in outer space in a rocket ship and it was dark and painted and it was accelerating at exactly the right rate, you actually wouldn't know if you were sitting on the floor of a building around the Earth or if you were in a rocket ship that was accelerating.
So, quite literally, in 2 breaths, she's told her how they absolutely would feel the force, but then described the equivalence principle where you absolutely would not realise. Now, the girl is smiling. Now, is she smiling because she's just gone, what the hell? I would definitely feel it like the flying men on the ISS, but equivalence principle says you won't feel a damn thing. Yeah, she doesn't know she's being deceived by a witch who's contradicting herself, does she? Because she's smiling. This child being lied to.
Crazy.
She's probably a
You
little
ever had that?
confused about what she's actually saying. So it's like, yeah, okay.
Well,
The equivalence principle.
I'd be confused.
The equivalence principle was based around Earth moving up the way towards the object not falling, but the Earth moving up the way. And for a globe, it's moving out the way at all times. But it's being counteracted by space-time curving in towards it, counteracting it. That's what the equivalence principle was about. I don't know what she's talking about.
That experience where you're sitting in a train and the other one moves, and for a second you're not sure if you're the one moving?
Yeah, because I go on the train every day to go to school, but I never feel like I'm moving when I'm in the train. And then
No, love, that's not what she said. She said when you're in the train on the platform, let's be clear, not moving, and the train on the other platform moves, for a few seconds, it can appear like you are moving because it looks like you're moving because the other train is. Now, what you've replied with is, yeah, when I'm on the train, sometimes it feels like I'm not moving. Demonstrating that you, A, didn't listen to what she said, but let's more importantly see what the teacher now says.
And I'm like, wait, what?
That's because in some sense you're really not. Imagine you're...
Oh, I see. So even though you've just given her an example where she literally wasn't moving to make your example, now you're telling her that in a way, when she's moving on a train, she's actually not moving. Like in your example where she wasn't moving. What a witch. What a witch. I hope you burn in hell for lying to children with your double-speak contradiction where you example something not moving, and when the reply is about you actually moving, you tell her, yeah, that's right, it's like you're not moving. You're just a lying witch.
Just imagine. Just get to the imagination part. She's invoking a new imagination. So let's hear it.
You're in this
I'm
train.
not even upset. I'm not even upset because, like, I mean, we hear it. Anybody who, plays back, this clip will hear the criticism. It's obvious she just double spoke once before, and now she should know as a teacher that the student didn't comprehend what she said, but she went along anyway. I mean, come on, fam.
Yep. Disgraceful.
It's going near the speed of light relative to the platform, but it's so smooth. Then you should be in a situation in which there's no meaning to your absolute motion. There's no absolute motion. So that if you throw a ball up, you might think from the outside of the platform, be confused that when gravity pulls that back down, it's going to hit you or something, but it'll land in your palm as surely as if you were in your living room.
What about if the same example was done in a convertible? Would the same outcome be true? Where you're not sealed inside the train? You see, the problem with this example, my love, is that your example would require Earth have containment for this effect to be true. Does Earth in the heliocentric model parallel your example with a train that is sealed so the ball comes back down into your hand? Oh no, the gas we're breathing isn't the same in the heliocentric model as a train. It's entirely exposed to the outside low pressure of a vacuum and not dispersing into it. So how is a train that's sealed analogous to an Earth in space, where the black area is 10 to the minus 17 torr, and the white area in my diagram here is a high pressure gas, not following entropic law? How is that comparable to a train that's sealed? Oh, it isn't. But for the example where you're throwing balls up and in the mind's eye of the teenager, you're on a train that's moving, but in the example given by the teacher, you're on a platform that's on a train that's definitely not moving with another train next to you moving at the speed of light. But it doesn't matter, no corrections needed, so long as at the end she understands that there's a convoluted, nonsensical description of how there's a force of gravity making men fly when they're in orbit. As long as she understands that at the end of this, we're all golden, right?
Just imagine how it's all relative, right? I mean, if you have the train thing, yeah, you know how you mistake that you might be moving and not the train you're seeing moving, or the other way around, by not checking your actual feeling and only what you're seeing, right? By ignoring a part by accident and therefore mistaking, like, oh, what I'm seeing is the thing that's happening and I'm interpreting it like this. And then you check your feelings like, oh, wait, no, I'm not moving. I feel still. So it's all about the mistake, the compartmentalized mistake. It's all relative, right? All comes down to that. It's all relative, and thereby gravity somehow.
Well, the young girl also seems a little indoctrinated because she knows darn well when she gets on the train, she feels it. Well, why would you say that? You don't.
Isn't that kind of crazy? So imagine you are an astronaut and you are floating in empty space. You can't see anything. There's no stars, there's no Earth. You can ask yourself,
You could ask yourself, how is it the case that I am now imagining that I'm Superman? Like the men in the spaceship that you told me about earlier. Why is it that I'm conceptually Superman, looking down at Earth with gas not filling space? Why is it that she's now being elevated to a god flying in empty space? How is she going to conceptualize this when she can never, ever, ever experience it? Well, it's just part of the witchcraft. That's all it is. It's part of the spell. That's all this is. A spell.
am I moving? There's really no
Why are you asking her? You've just told her she's in free space with no reference. I mean, you're asking her if you're moving.
way for you to tell. So you would probably conclude, well, I'm not moving. So then...
Would she? How would she know? She's not floating in free space. She's sat on a chair. But you're going to tell her how she's thinking now, are you, witch?
Your friend Marina comes cruising past you, and maybe she's going thousands of kilometers a second. And you say, Marina, you're cruising at like thousands of kilometers a second. You're going...
Could that be the case? Can this teenager imagine somebody cruising at thousands of miles per second when it's simply not achievable? No, absolutely not. But why in this conceptual example have you got somebody existing in a sky vacuum to make the example? I don't understand it.
Going so fast.
Even trying to imagine this would frighten the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Like, I would get very uncomfortable if I had a lady telling me to imagine this, really.
She had just done the same experiment.
Experiment? Somebody moving past another person at a speed? That's an experiment, is it? No, more lies from the astrophysicist stealing valor from an empirical method to make this sound like science. So that was an experiment, was it? She took herself to somewhere conceptual. And you're going to tell her she just did an experiment? What an absolute outrage. No, you just took her somewhere conceptual. You think that's how experiments are done, do you, astrophysicist? No, this is how witchcraft is done.
She was just
It's
floating
a
in
thought
space,
experiment.
thinking,
all right.
It's a...
am I moving? There's no way to know which one of you is moving, and there's no meaning to the absolute motion. The only thing that's true is that you're in relative motion. That's true. You both agree you are in relative motion, and that's clear. But neither of you can say it's actually you who's moving and I'm stationary.
Proving what? She's smiling, she's nodding. When is she going to get to the position where she's in space and there's no reference whatsoever for this to conceptually make sense, and then agree that even if you don't know that you're moving, conceptually you are definitely moving with reference to something else, even if it's moving with reference to you and you're not? Well, this is a nonsensical scenario that is only done to confuse this smiling teenager.
Nathan,
yeah, that's the perfect reaction. She shrugs her shoulders and grins.
Yeah, Nathan, where they do have, where they need two reference frames is for the Earth-based Coriolis, though. Why don't you contrast that baby with what she just said?
Yeah, if you're going to have a claim that Earth is a turning non-inertial reference frame and you're going to leave it with escape velocity, then we'd notice. You'd have flight times reduced.
I don't even know what to say to that.
No, it's because it's totally nonsensical and confusing and putting you in a conceptual place where you're doing experiments. Yeah, I'm damn sure you wouldn't understand it, let alone know what to say in response. As long as some of it's sunk in. Most importantly, that there's an area of space for you to be in. Did you conceptualise that bit of area of space with people whizzing by you at thousands of miles an hour? As long as you got that bit, love, this witch will be happy.
It's an imaginary place.
Conceptual, yeah.
Not a conceptual place, but although you could categorize it as conceptual, but essentially she said imaginary.
Yeah.
Use your imagination.
back to that what we said at the beginning of this.
Right. That's where it's real.
It's mental models. If that's what's being asked, there isn't this when we ask for the model, it's all different in everybody's head. What it's about, to me, what we're seeing here is just making sure you accept the model. It doesn't matter exactly if it works, it doesn't work, as long as you're accepting of it. And this seems to be the theme that it's gone through. But it reminds me that, like I say, going back to that 1500s book, that's how it's described. Its purpose is to begin building mental models. And that's all we're seeing here.
What's the point of this incoherent dribble anyway?
To indoctrinate children. It's showing
No,
people
not
how
the-
they indoctrinate children.
Not the overall point, the specific point that she's trying. I've forgotten already. What is she trying to compare and contrast with?
You know what? I have lost track too, and I believe that was part of the plan.
Exactly, right? It was all, no, it was about gravity. And then they're talking about relative motion and how you can't tell it. And that's supposed to be proof that it is gravity somehow. And orbital motion.
This is how you convince people that you are moving in 2,500 different vectors at the same time while simultaneously not experiencing any of them. And
Where
it
it
only
gets
works
really-
because it's a kid.
I thought it
Also,
was
how does
much,
angular momentum? I'm sorry. She said it before, and I was eating. She said that angular momentum pulls. Is that what? Sorry, it's
Yeah.
probably too far gone by now.
No, I
move
remember.
on.
Yes. She's talking about holding something at the end of a piece of string and swinging it around. Yes.
How does that compare to the ISS? Where's the
It didn't.
strength?
It didn't. And I pointed that out. It's not a force. It's not pulling. There's no tensile strength in the string. There's no string. There's no force.
Oh, sorry about
String
that.
is gravity.
Again, Owen?
The string is gravity.
Yeah, by false comparison, yeah.
Really crazy. So let's say you and Marina are floating in space.
Told you. Called it. The only bit that she needs this teenage to understand is that you could be floating in space. The main part of the indoctrination is that rhetoric is true. Doesn't matter about the example. Just reiterate exactly what I said was the main selling point of this discussion with this teenager. Space is real.
And you can't tell who's moving. Let's say you both see a flash of light.
Now watch the cups. Don't think about where the ball is. Just watch the cups. Watch the cups.
The flash of light comes from somewhere. You don't know where. So you measure the speed of light to be 300,000 kilometers per second.
Nod. Did you measure the speed of light to be 300,000 kilometers per second, my dear, with the curly hair? She's just told you measured that. You understand? No, she's not going to. She's a child. But this witch has just told a child that she has measured the speed of light. That's what she just told her.
But here comes Marina, and she's racing at the light pulse as far as you can tell. Two cars driving towards each other.
Oh, that sounds terrifying. So back to the death cell. Working in these marketing techniques to keep your audience pinned to the edge of their seat with fear. Primeval in terms of their understanding of not dying. So she's going to prick her ears up, the person being indoctrinated, the child being indoctrinated by this witch, is going to prick her ears up at the death cell that's just been pitched to her about two cars driving towards each other at astronomical speeds. So this is going to release a few chemicals in this child's brain, I absolutely assure you, meaning that when she puts the hard cell down, it's going to be soaked up good and proper by her victim.
Seem like they're
Wait
going
a second.
faster.
I thought they were in outer space, in the fairy tale outer space. Now we got two cars coming at each other.
Yep.
It's a car crash waiting to happen.
Yep. But that's the way you make sure it's cemented in the child's mind as being something that they can relate to physically, that they might be a part of to experience death. That's how the death cell works.
Towards each other.
It's like
then some.
I'm sorry. It's like the crockers that they say is going around. These are supposed to be renowned people. This one guy, he says about atoms, atomic, atoms that you can go through the wall, or we're not really touching this and we're not really making contact with that. It's an all optical illusion within the fourth and fifth dimension. And we're just in the third dimension realm in a matrix. I mean, these are the things they tell people and children and have them growing up thinking this and just totally detached from reality in every aspect that you can imagine. And I've been holding my tongue listening to this, but I'm so infuriated. And I'm pretty sure everybody out there that got nieces, grandchildren, and children have to be infuriated. But this is what's going on in institutions.
Somebody who's standing still relative to one of the cars, right? Yeah. So you would say, oh, Marina's going to measure a difference.
Like 2 minutes ago in the example, you wouldn't know if you were still or moving. But now in the example, so long as the kid's in space, in my example, one person's now standing still, violating her earlier description of not knowing. Just outrageous.
Speed of light. But she comes back and she says, nope, 300,000 kilometers per second. Because from her perspective, she's standing still. And the laws of physics had better be the same for her. It's a speed.
Which law of physics? What, the gravitational law you told the child earlier about? That was 108 years out of date? Yeah, the laws of motion of Newton were not right. Richard Feynman. Yeah, those laws.
Speed of light is a fact.
Hang on. She's so excited about laws of physics. What about second law of thermodynamics? Why isn't she using that to displace this whole imagination?
She's cherry picking the out-of-date 108-year out-of-date rhetoric for the children when she lies to them. Her tune will change with the next victim.
That's as true as the strength of gravity.
So something that hasn't been measured, which is the speed of light that she's just told her is as true as the strength of a non-force. So the speed of light is not true. Is that another embedded confession? In other words, given that there is no strength to things that don't get qualified as forces, there is no speed of light measurement either. That's how true it is, according to her. So no speed of light measurement, we already knew. And no strength of gravity, we already knew. But that's simultaneously both being peddled to this child by this witch. What an outrage.
And the two of you are in this quandary because if one of you is the preferred person who correctly measures the speed of light, that ruins everything about the idea of the relativity of motion. Which one of you should it be? So Einstein decides they must both measure the same speed of light. How could that possibly be the case?
Well, it's not. You want to show me the one-way speed of light being measured beyond the assumption that needs R for the two-way speed? You don't have it.
Anything
further than that, further to that, it's been entirely debunked by quantum mechanics.
Well, if
It's
speed,
just philosophy now, isn't it? Though this is just now. Even a solution is philosophy. So Einstein decides. This is just pure philosophy to then apply mathematics to. There's no
is how
link to reality.
far you travel, your spatial distance, in a certain amount of time, then there must be something wrong with space and time.
Why? She's only conceptualizing this. She's imagining this. Somehow, in imagination land, there's something wrong with space and time. Hold on a second. Space, that's the three-dimensional physicality that we experience, versus time, a way of describing the hour of entropy. Okay. Why would you be hinting at this to this teenager when you've put her in a conceptual medium? Oh, right. Next child on the list will be told that they are living in the conceptual medium, won't they? So at this juncture, she's got a force of gravity and a vague hint of a conceptual realm that she's just been in called space, with a mate hurtling towards her for some reason in a car to make sure she's well and truly terrified and remembers this space that she was conceptually in, because it's about to become very real. Yeah, you remember that space you were imagining? No, fourth dimension that was. You were really there. And so can you be in this maths of a fourth dimension you don't experience.
And he goes from the constancy of the speed of light and a respect for this idea of relativity to the idea that space and time must not be the same for you and for Marina. And that's how he gets to the idea of the relativity of space and time.
Well, from a body language point of view, what this girl is doing is fig leafing. She's covering her genitals, yeah, in a protective manner. She's not in any way mirroring the body position or body language of the teacher. In other words, this tells me that this child has got a glazed look over her face, doesn't really understand what's going on, and doesn't relate to the person indoctrinating her. Not that that's required. She doesn't have to relate to this teacher or feel comfortable with the teacher. Quite the contrary. Much better that she's in fear. That's why she's not mirroring her body language. Because she's not feeling comfortable. In fact, quite the reverse. She looks deeply uncomfortable as she covers her genitals.
Time. You have the best expression on your face.
Yeah, let's all giggle along about how uncomfortable this small child feels.
I'd just like to point out that genital covering hand signal is Masonic.
By the child? Oh, I'm not going to pick up that far. Bloody hell, Adam. We're already halfway into quackery with my claim.
On screen. So she's either very nervous and playing with her hands, making shapes, as you imply, or she's purposely making that hand signal. But
Okay, fine. If I'm going to lean on quackery, I can't really decry you leaning on Masonic hintery.
Well, no, or the alternative, which is what you're implying, that she's uncomfortable in the position. She's fiddling with her hands. Either, yeah. It is a very close posture she has.
Indeed. And if you look at the way she's pointing, the child, her knees are pointing away from the person. Now, obviously, the teacher's got her legs crossed and is pointing towards the person she's trying to engage. Because she still wants to engage her, but from an authoritative position, with the child looking uncomfortable. There's no other way to describe what I can see on screen. That's what it is. And at the end, when it's all, oh God, I hope you don't ask me about something you've just talked about, that's the uncomfortable laugh that we just heard.
It's pretty wild. But that is a starting point, actually, of the whole theory of relativity. That starting point leads to this complete revolution in physics where we suddenly have a big bang and black.
No, not in physics. That would be the physical. No, space-time and black holes exist in the conceptual. Yeah, where you just took her to imagine all of this. But that's the biggest lie of all, right at the end. That's where we went in physics. Now, maybe the child doesn't appreciate that means in the physical. That's not where she was, though, was it? You took her to the conceptual and made clear that she was imagining it. Yeah, but later in life, like I say, she's going to be told that conceptual medium that she imagined herself with her friend hurtling towards her in a car is actually real. That's the real world of the fourth dimension. Didn't you know that your imagination land actually has geodesic spending in it? Not really a force. I know we told you before that it was a force. But you can think of it as a force.
Black holes in space-time, just from that one simple starting point. So is your impression
No,
of
she
gravity
started-
different than when we
hold on.
started?
No, she started with imagination, and then she juxtaposed it or compared and contrasted it with the other starting point, general theory of relativity, both starting in imagination land.
Exactly.
That's what I was going to say, John. What is this starting point? It's not a discovery. It's Einstein deciding he has to maintain relativity when he's thinking about the speed of light. And maths coming from that. That's no starting point. Judge reality on, is it? There's nothing based in reality. Fundamentals is Einstein's philosophy, and then his maths.
And perhaps, but perhaps if challenged, she'd justify it by declaring that she did disclaim that to the child, because she did, didn't she?
Yeah, and she's told her that the speed of light's nonsense as long, and what was and Newton's story was probably a lie as well. He is fairly hiddenly honest.
You chuckle because of uncomfortableness, I assume, for her on her behalf. You're too empathic.
Probably.
Yeah, I just feel disdain towards her as opposed to chuckling for the uncomfortable position that, when pointed out, she's brainwashing a child.
Heard the conversation?
Yeah, because I knew that when I was on the train, I didn't feel like I was moving, but I didn't know why, or that it was a thing and I wasn't crazy.
So right at the end,
How was that?
Yeah, right at the end, she's gone back to the thing that she wasn't corrected on at the start, and I said, let's see where she goes, where the astrophysicist goes with the incorrect assumption of the description being disseminated to her by the astrophysicist, which is you on a platform with a train next to you moving. It even showed a visual of that happening. Will she, now she's given a second opportunity, demonstrating admirably that the child doesn't understand, will she correct the child? Let's see.
And it's really deep principle. And what about the theory of gravity?
So she just doesn't...
Oh.
Can you replay that first statement, which was about 5 seconds ago, but what the young lady said?
You mean in terms of her disseminating her misunderstanding about the train being the one that's moving?
Yes.
I got 10 seconds.
Good. Yeah, just play it again.
Holes in space-time, just from that one simple starting point. So is your impression of gravity different than when we started the conversation?
Yeah, because like I knew that like when I was on the train, I didn't feel like I was moving, but I didn't know like why or that it was a thing and I wasn't crazy.
And it's really deep principle. And what about the theory of gravity?
I don't know. Like usually when I just heard gravity, it's like from my coaches, but I didn't know like it was like all these things.
Mm-hmm. It's like a big paradigm.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Hang on. When she said, because you're talking about standing at the platform watching another train move, what she just said is that when she was on the train and it was moving and she didn't feel like it was moving, that's a bunch of nonsense. Anyone on the train knows they're moving.
Yeah, the child misinterpreted
She's
the
trying
example.
to confuse her sense of reality. That's literally what she's doing. She's taking a kid who was on a train, who understood, I'm on a train, the train's moving, I feel it, that's great. That's reality. Now let me switch it all up with this nonsense of gravity to put her in some other fantasy world where she could feel like she's moving but not moving, or is not moving but is actually moving.
Yeah, but that wasn't the astrophysicist's point in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was the girl on the... Go ahead. You know what I'm talking about.
The example was shown. It's because it wasn't live and we're in the after show and you can't see. What's shown as a pictorial example of the astrophysicist's example is you on a train waiting because your train has a broken engine. We all clear that we are on a train, but that train is broken, not moving. Now, as you sit there, unaware that it's broken, the train on the platform that's opposite you pulls away. And as you look out your window, you go, oh, great, we're setting off. And then the train disappears and you realise you're still sat at the platform not moving. But for a few seconds, it appears like you're moving when you're not. Now, that is the astrophysicist detailing how in free space, when there's no reference around her, imagining herself with nothing around her, she could be moving, but is actually standing still but has no way of knowing, in the same way as you could be moving on the train, but you're actually standing still. That was the astrophysicist's example to the child. Response from the child, yeah, when I'm on a moving train, twice. Didn't get corrected by the astrophysicist.
Yep.
But she doesn't care. Like Chocolate said, and he's still right in his summary, what is trying to be achieved? What's the outcome that the astrophysicist wants? Well, a confused understanding of Newtonian forces of gravity, mass attracting mass, versus the quantum non-description of a fourth dimension in the imagination land, later to be reified when she gets told about 4D space-time. Hinted at only at this stage in her life. Still definitely being affirmed that there's a space. That's the most important part. You can be in a space, out where the men fly, out in space. I'll reiterate that twice. It doesn't matter that you're not really listening and think you're on a train that's moving when you see one on the other platform moving when you're standing still. That's not relevant. You understand the space. And that your friend could be coming towards you. Remember when you could be crashing into each other head on at light speed? Remember? Yeah, space. Remember? Good. What's that? Again, with this train you're on moving, yeah, ha, ha, ha. So what do you think about gravity? That was her response. Hope that was a good enough summary.
Yeah, just about did it.
Okay, well, do you want to make a note of the time? 12 minutes, 26/10. So we've done 2.
Well, it's just finish the end of this girl, and when the next person comes, stop
it is.
there.
That's
okay. Perfect.
Well, you can just so you can see what's next. Here for you.
So you're in college. Yeah. And what are you studying in college?
I'm a physics major.
So from your perspective, how would you describe gravity?
I'm taught that it's a force. It's described by inverse law, but I also know that it's a field. And there's a recent discovery with like gravitational waves.
So opener, gravity's a force. She's a college student, physics, she thinks it's a force. So now,
she said, "I'm taught
the
that it's a
astrophysicist
force."
will, because she's reiterated what the first two children understand and have been taught, this is why this particular student was picked for this edit, because it starts out perfectly. And now the astrophysicist will seem extra clever when she starts correcting her about the bending fourth dimensional space-time that she can think of as a force. But don't be so smart thinking you know what gravity is, like I told you. Or, in this case, told the other two children and would have been told to this girl. Because no, there's a subtle nuance about it not being a force. But you can think of it as a force. That's what we'll get in this one. But we'll cover that tomorrow.
I thought she said, "I'm taught that it's a force, but I know that it's a field." So,
yeah, that's exactly what she said.
So that's where she's going to head with a bit of, well, by now, you see, you know that it's not a force. So maybe not ridicule, just joining in that at this level, you understand it much, much better. I mean, it's contradictory to what you just said, but you understand it much better.
Exactly, that's
Nathan,
where it will go.
What's a gravitational wave?
Not come away from the light. Don't look at the light.
Nathan, just because I'm going to do it tomorrow, let's just have fun with it. Please play 625 on this recording.
Mostly around the Earth, gravity pulls things down. So when we want to send a rocket into space, when we want to go to the moon, when we want...
Is that all you wanted?
Well, yeah, because as she moves towards Einstein, we're going to keep playing that 625, hopefully. Gravity pulls things down, okay, because she said it. As she's indoctrinating, and then it's going to change.
But mostly, what does that mean?
That's what
but mostly around the Earth.
They come at night, mostly.
Why don't you put us in charge?
I mean, sometimes they don't. She giving little truths again. Or just bad grammar.
Well, does gravity being explained as a pulling force down, does that match Einsteinian?
Put up with the flat Earth debate. I can tell you that much.
None of what she said matches anything in particular.
You sound muffled, Brian.
He's eating potatoes.
Can you get closer to your talk hole?
I'm outside trying to stop the wind. That's all. So I had my jacket pulled up to the bar. Yeah, she's nothing she said actually refers specifically to anything in particular. It's all kind of vague. It's a bit of this gravity, a bit of that gravity. None of it is actually correct. It's just confusion.
No, earlier she did. Earlier she said that she didn't believe Newton's story about the apple falling, but she did say it's a force that's pulling down, and she used a string with the ball, kind of and the string was supposed to be gravity. So up until the transition, she's still calling gravity a force, but then we know what's going to happen next.
What's going to happen?
More confusion.
Well, it's all the other astrophysicists have beat her to it. Gravity is not a force. Brian Cox, gravity is not a force. Eric Valinder, gravity is not a force. George Muser.
I don't remember the video very much. Is it the same lady talking to each different age group?
Yes.
Is it this? Oh, so it's the same lady. So she already understands that it's not a force, because
Yes,
once she gets to the last category, she's gonna fully tell him that it's not, or him or her or whatever, that it's not a force. It's Einstein's bending of space-time. So she's already very well aware of it. It's not like she's not aware that gravity is not a force. It's that you don't tell the kids that.
That's why it's a perfect video to review, because you're seeing how they do it through the different ages. And then, of course, the kid from the first to the last has seen how many movies, how many things have come in through society that's there to reinforce this non-truth.
A lot.
Let's just watch golf this weekend. Yep, the ball went in the hole because of gravity. Okay, reinforcement of a lie.
Which hole? Was it the talk hole?
No, it was the 18th hole.
You asking me?
No, I told him it was the 18th hole. He's just acting like a putz.
Ah, that's a good one. Like golf,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, I know. It's a stroke of genius.
Oh, he's on fire.
Right, with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels, and I'll see you all in the next video.